The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are not necessarily representative of the coalition or any other entity. This content is intended for mature audiences only.
What's going on, people? Welcome to Throwdown Your Questions, episode 135. I'm your host, Tony Polanco, and I'm joined by Emilio Lopez.
Sup, people? How you doing?
Chris Seeley.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
Brett Murdoch.
What's up, everybody?
And Adam Vale.
What's up? What's up?
All right, no Carlos action. He's still in Japan, so I'm doing a little bit of juggling here. Hold on, Brett. I will give you these show notes.
Y'all can tell I'm prepared when I come in.
Yeah. Did I do fucking bullshit? I hate this shit. Where's Carlos when we need him? Actually, Carlos jumped in just for a little while to show us a Japanese convenience store or whatever the fuck it was. I think it was an electronics store. I saw appliances
like
and
laptops
shit. Yeah, it looked like a Best Buy, up until you saw the Japanese letterings and shit. Well, he's having fun out there. He'll probably tell us some stories. Also, before we start, I want to give a quick shout out to Hip Hop Gamer and Andrew Alliance, who joined us on episode 135 of Throwdown. Had a lot of fun with those guys. Hip Hop was very enthusiastic about his beastly laptop, which pretty much destroys a lot of hard, desktop PCs. It's great. 2 1080s, man. You're nuts. But, he's getting his money's worth, even though he didn't pay for it. It's a sponsorship. I need a sponsorship. We need a sponsorship for Throwdown, man. That'd be great.
Matter of time.
Yeah. By the way, you guys, I had to Chris and Brett having another interesting debate about Switch beforehand. I'm like, guys, say it for the show. So I don't know if you guys want to pick up where you left off, or you want to just start answering questions. Some are Switch related already. What do you guys want to do? I'll leave it up to you guys.
Well, I want to jump in just with that because it's still
basically before we start, the discussion was on Nintendo's ship numbers, right? Chris, you and I were talking about this even yesterday. We're like, okay, they're saying that the system is sold out everywhere, yet they're only shipping a couple to their stores. You actually did some footwork to find this shit out, didn't you?
Yeah. So I have several major outlets around me. I got a Walmart literally across the street. I have a Target down the street, 2 GameStops, a Best Buy, and the HEB a supermarket chain in Texas. Most of them have electronics departments, and they sell Xbox and PlayStation. They sell all sorts of stuff in there. So none of them have a Switch. Every time I go in there and ask, I most often go to the Walmart over here, the HEB, and the Target, and they never have it. And I asked them flat out, I said, how many do you get in? The Walmart here said they only got 16 in March when it launched, and they never got another shipment again. Even though there are stock sites and deal sites that say they get them, they say that those sites are wrong and they don't have any. I will go to Target, they never have any. HEB says they get 1 a month. Target says they get 1 or 2 a month. I think Best Buy had the most, they got 3 a month. GameStop, they get, the one in the mall got 2 a month, the one outside gets 4 a month. So if they're only getting that many, then yes, they're selling like hotcakes. When you only get 4 systems a month and they fly off the shelves, so it's only 4 systems, right? So I know I'm in a small pool. I mean, I'm in a major city. I'm in Austin, Texas. I'm not, if I was in New York, I could do more footwork. I could walk around and find out from more stores, but I'm going to major chains and they're telling me this. This is belies a huge problem. And then we were talking about the article today that one of our fans sent us. What's his name?
Who was it? Vishal, was it?
Yes, Vishal sent that. That they're now saying they'll have 18 million shipped by fiscal year 2018. Now wait a minute. I thought they were doubling production to have 60 million ready by the end of fiscal year 2017. So
yeah, just for perspective, right? Because they originally projected 16 million sold by the end of this year. So you would think they would project 32 million by the end of next year, but now they're projecting 18 million. What went wrong?
Yeah, they have a manufacturing or supply somewhere along the line. They're having an issue. They're not being transparent about it. These numbers don't match, right? The rhetoric doesn't match. What I could see outside now. Granted, I can't drive around to every freaking Best Buy or whatever and figure out who has stock or whatever, and I'm not going to be bothered doing that. But the fact is, like around me, like in North Austin or whatever, and I could go to South Austin too, probably be the same store. And I've checked the stock sites. Most of South Austin Walmart's, Targets, and Best Buys don't have the damn system. So, and it's not because they get hundreds in and they're all selling out and people are drooling over it. It's because they get 1 or 2 a month and they go. So what what is the story there? And that's the piece that's missing. That's what they're not telling us, and I'm getting annoyed at that.
Yeah, and Brett, what did you have to say to that?
That has not been my experience at all. I've also done the footwork, and my retailers are getting them in by 5s and 10s every couple of weeks. They're coming into Toys R Us pretty regularly. I picked up my Switch almost 2 months after release, as it came in a batch of 12. My opinion on the whole thing is that there is obviously a manufacturing hang-up. This thing is Nintendo guesses conservatively every time, and this is doubled down on the fact that this has been a bigger hit than a lot of people expected, including Nintendo. And you don't just go out and open new factories without incurring a lot of loss. So yeah, they're ramping up the production for the manufacturing facilities that they already have, and I'm sure that they're doing the legwork to get in more. But I don't think this is an issue of, oh, we're just saying that we're sending out all these Switches. Oh, we promise all these Switches are out, when in fact none are actually coming. And yes, I do believe the articles that I've read that said Nintendo was shipping them out via airplane, that it may not have happened completely in mass.
Where were
shipping
they?
them to the Best Buy at my house where I picked mine up, dude. If nothing came out from no, hold on. Because
you go get me a manifest and you show me where those planes were going, how many Switches were in them, and you tell me how where they were going, and I'll believe it.
The same thing to you.
What do you mean? Like I go out and I can't get one, and I go.
You show me shipping manifests that show that there's no Switch. Like you're asking me to bring you official.
But I have more evidence that they don't have
the same amount of legwork as you have, man. Like
yes,
I went to as many stores.
I have evidence that they're not there, and you're saying they're coming in by plane. What are they airdropping them to people? What is this like Live Aid in Somalia? Where the fuck are they going?
Dude, the Switch I got came out on a 2-day shipping from fucking Japan. What do you think? Somebody swam it there super fast?
I don't give a shit what they're doing. I know they have a facility in North Bend that ships pallets out everywhere. I know how this stuff works, Brett. That's why I'm telling you they're full of shit. North Bend gets the shipments in, they create the pallets, the packing and everything, and then they ship it out nationwide. And they have a distributor in Japan that does the same thing. So when they tell you that they're coming in by air, like this is like an effort in World War II and Winston Churchill sending extra fucking rations to the troops, I don't buy it.
And that's fine. You cannot buy it. But if you're saying you're not going to listen, you're only going to listen to your personal anecdotal evidence, not the things that I've experienced and not the things that I've found, and you want to cherry pick which stories you want to listen to and which stories you don't, then there is honestly no arguing with this. Because the only thing I can do is show you, like you said, shipping manifests that show that it went from point A to point B to point C to point D to hit the door. But meanwhile, you're saying that places like Best Buy, other than the very first initial shipment that they got in, have pretty much not gotten any Switches. Well, that's bullshit, because I got my Switch in one of those shipments that happened months after launch.
All right, so you call me a liar.
No, I'm calling you mistaken.
No, you call me a liar because I went to Best Buy. I went to Walmart. I actually said to Walmart, only got 16 over here, and they haven't gotten one since then.
And so are you calling me a liar then?
No, we're having two different experiences. And that's the problem, because I'm checking regularly. You don't have to check. How often do you go to Toys R Us and to 15 stores and check if there's a Switch now that you already own one? You tell me you go once a week?
Twice a week. I'm looking for one for my boss.
Twice a week. How many stores do you
Toys R Us?
By the way, it's my duty as the host of the show to say that none of you guys are calling each other liars. Let's calm it down a little bit. But Adam, what did you have to say about all this before we actually start?
Just in my area, I know people that are still looking for it, that want to get in. They can't find it, and so they're looking for online retailers. And the only ones they're finding are the eBay ones that are jacking up the price. They're still having that trouble. So they must have all went to like other areas. Maybe Kansas was a hot spot. Who knows? But at least where I'm at, people just can't find them. So they're either waiting. There's no one wants to spend $500 just to get one. So
on eBay, right? Yeah,
and I've heard from a lot of people charging a ridiculous amount.
But then again, I've heard other cases where like they say they have a bunch of Switches in stores and no one's buying them.
It's probably in certain areas for some reason. They're hotbeds. I don't know why, but
hey, Chris, I have a perfect way to fix this. You want to know how?
Reggie, how Reggie? How?
Well, since Brett is swimming in
Oh,
swimming
yeah,
in
he
Wii U's
could have
over
one.
there, he could buy one for Chris. Chris, you send him the money and he ships it over to you.
But I don't
Hey,
want a Wii U.
he wants a Switch.
Oh, sorry, a Switch. He can
Hey,
send you a Switch.
How about that? Hey, Brett, send him a Switch, man.
Yeah, man. I'll let you know as soon as I find one. There was just reports of I'm trying to find it now. Of I think it was just this Friday that a big shipment came into Toys R Us. Toys R Us and GameStop seem to be getting the best ones or the most supply. And GameStop is jamming them into fucking bundles.
Bundles. That's why.
Yeah,
they're getting extra shipments because they're bundling it with stuff.
GameStop is selling nothing but bundles right now, and that's GameStop's.
Oh, don't give GameStop a dime, not even on my behalf.
No.
Never. I'll wait. I'll get it from somewhere else, but I will not. Even if GameStop over here had one, I wouldn't give them the fucking money.
No, that's why I say Toys R Us. Toys R Us seems to be getting the biggest shipments. Target seems to be getting a good amount, roughly once or twice a month. Walmart seems to have their head permanently lodged up their ass. Nobody knows up from down. They're always like, "Oh, the system says we have 6, but it doesn't. I don't see any." Or always like, "Oh, there's 2 that are being held."
The back stole a bunch. That's why they're still coming up. You got some strength issues going on.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Right,
There's always one that like, well, there's one behind the counter, but I can't sell it to you because it's a pre-order. It's like,
of course.
Since it's a pre-order.
How is it a pre-order? Fucking Switch is like 2 months old now.
I don't understand if people like if Walmart is taking pre-orders for their stock or if they're just letting pre-orders sit behind the counter, which they shouldn't have done for more than a couple of weeks at absolute most. But
yeah. Oh, by the way, before we start, Matt Wheaton. This is not a question, Chris. By the way, he just wants to know what are our thoughts on this year's upcoming E3. We'll give you those answers on Throwdown episode 137 on June 8th.
Yeah.
All right, man. Let's get into this shit. First question here. It is about the Switch. My man, Final Stage Boss, and I did a little bit of cheating here because he actually asked this question almost next to last, but it doesn't feel right if Final Stage Boss doesn't go first. Right?
Yo, man, you making special concessions?
Hey, listen, that guy was the guy who was asking us questions consistently for over 100 episodes, so he gets a little preferential treatments.
Even when nobody was asking questions, he was asking us questions.
Exactly. All right, so his question is, can the Nintendo Switch and the new Nintendo DS coexist? A new next generation DS, can they both exist in harmonies? Come on, guys, let's go.
All right, I'll go first. They're gonna have to. Because the Switch is their main system, and it has to be. All their eggs are in that basket, and they're gonna have to push the system as hard as possible. So with the 2DS, because the 3DS still is making a ton of money, and I pointed out when I read everyone the financial report, 51% of their total revenue for the last fiscal year was from the 3DS. So they're obviously going to still support it. Now, how much one eats into the other, I don't know. Like they're pushing the 2DS XL. I don't remember. It comes out next month, and we'll see. Like I don't know. I don't think they'll coexist too well. I think eventually they're gonna have to turn down the 3DS and then turn it off. Not like the Wii U. They just shut that tap right off, you know, because nobody was buying it anyway. But since the 3DS seems to be doing pretty damn well, and they're still supporting it. There's plenty of games even coming from Nintendo. The Pikmin games coming out for it. They got Monster Hunter Stories coming out. They got a bunch of stuff coming out for it. So they're gonna have to support it. But at the same time, with the value of one over the other, like the 3DS is much cheaper than a Switch, and it's got a library already, and it's got a lot of games. I don't know. There may be one cannibalizing the other. Probably the 3DS cannibalizing a little bit because it's a value right now for people. So I see that happening, not to a huge extent, not where the 3DS will completely stomp on the Switch, but it's going to hurt it a little bit, right? Value is important. I always tell people, like, people look for value, and if they can get value and it has support behind it, then they're going to go towards that. It's the path of least resistance. That's nature, that's physics, that's entropy.
You guys don't have any other thoughts on this?
I do.
Go ahead, just jump in, man. You know how this.
Well, I was gonna everybody else have their little time. Like,
look, go ahead, man. I don't really have an opinion on this, to be honest. Don't care. Go ahead.
Okay. Here's the deal. Throw rocks if you want. The DS is dying. That is the beginning, middle, and end of it. I don't care how fanboy you want to be or how much you want to say, like, oh, look, they're coming out with a new version. Yeah, they're coming out with a new version. They came out with the Game Boy Micro a year after the release of the DS. Just because they're making a new iteration doesn't mean that they're actually supporting the system. And just because they're bringing things out of development onto the DS does not mean that that development cycle is going to start over again on the Switch. This is going to be a slow kind of, they're not kicking everybody out at the end of the night, you know, but it's last call and they're starting to turn on the lights. So the new Monster Hunter is a perfect example. It's showing up on the DS and it's going to be ported to the Switch, but I guarantee you that they're not going to start development on another Monster Hunter for the DS. It's going to be a very slow, subtle passing of the torch, but you're not going to see any more games being brought into development for the DS, in my opinion. You're already seeing that kind of jumping. Now, that being said, they would be an idiot to completely cut off all support from the Switch. They want to bring over their fan base. And so for a lot of times, like even a new Pokemon game, I would be very, very surprised if there weren't, if it were a full Pokemon game for the Switch, I would be very surprised if it weren't very much the same Pokemon game for the DS. And for the first year or so, we're probably going to see a lot of cross-platform between the two. But as things get further along in their development cycle, you're going to see support for the Switch being dropped. So you're going to see this is the beginning of a 2 to 3 year demise, according to everything Nintendo has ever done before on their past histories of releasing handhelds. This is absolutely not far off from anything that they've done before. And because I remember I bought a Game Boy Micro just as it came out, because I was like, the DS came out and I said, I don't want to deal with this 2-screen shit. And they're like, well, we're not going to force you to play on 2 screens. We'd never do that. Here's a Game Boy Advance. So I was like, okay, absolutely cool. Or a Game Boy Micro. I was like, okay, absolutely, here we go. And lo and behold, yeah, that's absolutely what they did. You don't find a regular Game Boy Advance or any kind of Game Boy Advance for years other than your dual screen experience. So absolutely, this is going to be the exact same thing that happens here. But they're not going to shut the doors and they're not going to scare the herd. It's going to be a very slow thing, and they're going to finish out the development of the games that they already have.
The question was if they, I guess it's hypothetical, if they release a brand new next gen 3DS, 2DS, whatever.
Oh, another iteration?
Yeah. Could it coexist with the Switch?
No. That'd be split.
I got that. I misinterpreted that too. I thought he was talking about the current.
No, not the current, new, a brand new 3DS.
No, absolutely not. They would shoot themselves in the foot. That really would be competing with themselves. That would be ridiculous if they did that.
Yeah, I think dual screen is on its way out.
Yeah, I'll agree with you guys. Like I said, I don't see it happening, but whatever.
Yeah. No, they just came out with a new DS.
But I'm talking like a with new hardware. And all
4DS. Nah, that
4D.
Yeah.
It's got 4 screens as opposed to 2.
Yeah, it'd be stupid. Why would they do that?
Yeah, I apologize. Now, if they come up with a next gen DS right now, that would be insanity. Totally, they would really cannibalize themselves. So that they're not going to do that. If they did that, I would be like, yo, somebody needs to stop drinking over there, man.
Yeah, let's cool it on the sake. All right.
I definitely believe that they're going to let the whatever what is happening with the DS run itself out, and then just leave it at that.
You don't think they're going to make another DS then, a new one?
No, I don't think they're going to be another DS, because the thing is that the idea of a DS is even kind of going out of style. Like even handhelds are going out of style.
Yeah, this is a good opportunity to talk about this, by the way, because Carlos told us something very interesting, right? Because we've been saying, hey, the Switch is built around the Japanese market. They're always mobile and stuff, right? Carlos has been taking trains like crazy in Japan. He says he hasn't seen a single Switch at all. He's seen a Vita. He's seen a bunch of 3DSs, no Switches.
Now,
I'm shocked by that, actually.
I've gotten into discussions about this, and I think I have a reason for this. And maybe not in Japan, but here. And I'd be interested in hearing what you say about this as a New Yorker, Tony. Most people that I know that have a Switch are really pretty concerned about the fact that, first of all, they're so hard to come by that if something happens to yours, you can't just go out and replace it. Even if you have the money, even if you have a protection plan, something like that, they're hard to get a hold of. So if you dropped yours or if somebody broke it or something like that, like you'd be SOL. And second, because they are a commodity, everybody's very afraid of having theirs stolen, myself included. I don't bring my Switch out. Like I won't bust it out in an Uber or at a bar or anything like that. Like not yet. I will eventually, I'm sure.
I actually have an answer for that. I won't do it obviously for two reasons. One, I don't game on the go, and two, I'm not trying to get my shit stolen. But funny you said, because all my friends, and I'm talking about gaming journalist friends specifically in this case, they all bring their Switches. They all bring them to work. I remember
they bring them with them, but I don't think they pull them out on the subway.
That's as a matter of fact, Will Greenwald, who debated Chris a couple weeks ago, he says he plays it on the subway all the time.
Wow.
And this is a New Yorker. He's coming from like Brooklyn to Manhattan.
That's some balls.
Yeah, and then Jordan, Jordan Minor, we were talking about Nintendo Switch cases, right? And he went to go show me his, and his fucking Switch dropped to the floor, So they bring them out. They bring them on. Me, I wouldn't do that shit, but they do it, Or all the guys that I know, But again, these are gaming journalists, so maybe that has something to do with it. But
then he's probably not coming from a rough part of Brooklyn.
Well, yeah, who knows? And Jordan's coming from like Lincoln Center, that area, so it's pretty safe up there. Let's just be honest. But most of the guys that I talk to, Tim too, Eric, they're all like, yeah, man, we always take our Switches to work. We play them on the subway. So for again, that's just conjecture. But if I were to only look at those examples, I would say everybody's bringing their Switches out, which is funny because when I personally go out, I never see anybody. As a matter of fact, I don't see handhelds anymore. I remember back in the day when I used to take the trains, you see PSPs everywhere, 3DSs. You don't see any of that shit now. Everybody's just on their phone now. Can
I also make an observation?
Yeah.
When I was looking for cases, this is something that weighed pretty heavily on my mind, and through looking through reviews, actually, it apparently mattered to a lot of people. A lot of people aren't buying the official Nintendo Switch cases or bags or anything like that because
they see Nintendo Switch on the side of it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So to me, if people are going far enough out of their way to say like, I don't want my bag branded, so because I don't want you to know that I have a Switch in my bag. Like, if those people sure as shit aren't going to pull them out in a public place where there's lots of passerby traffic. Like, yeah, maybe if you get out to the park and you're hanging out with your buddies and drinking a couple beers, you play some Mario Kart or something like that. Like, but I think as long as we're all still so concerned about like, dude, I'm not like wearing a Switch thing because then I'll get fucking mugged for my Switch. Like, yeah, you're gonna see them out in the wild a lot less. Now, I could be surprised about how rarely you see in the wild once this is passed, but I all I'm saying is I think that's at least a contributing factor. I mean, it has to be. Tony, you're muted.
Tony,
my bad. I'm trying to do 50 different things here. Yeah, I guess we'll see. But yeah, it's very interesting that a lot of basically I'm hearing more people saying that they're bringing their Switches out to the subway than I'm actually seeing Switches on the subway. So I'm wondering what's going on here. That's my experience. It's like I'm hearing one thing, but I'm seeing something else.
There's also not that many in the wild either. I mean, like comparatively towards, if you compared, the number of Switches to the number of Vitas, the number of PlayStations, the number of all that, like they're really low. Like we're talking about a very small market share.
I thought Nintendo said there was a whole shit ton of them out there.
For Nintendo's numbers. Like that's the thing. Like this is not like PS4 level success kind of thing. This is not like there's, 60 or 80 million of these things just floating around right now. We are still on the it is a rare commodity, and even if you casually want one, like only the most hardcore people have actually fucking tracked one down. I mean, look at Chris. I'm sure Kristen has expressed interest. In fact, I think he said as much. But like, he's not going to go out of his way to find one. It doesn't matter that much to him. But will he end up probably giving some of his money to Nintendo despite him not wanting to? I'd say there's a 50-50 shot. And I think that there's a lot of those kind of people. I know my boss is another perfect example. He's like, yeah, man, I think it's pretty cool. I'd like to pick up one. I can't find it. Like, yeah, there's definitely supply constraints, and that's limiting the number of units you sell in the wild, which is Nintendo shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on here. Next question. Another Switch question. This is an interesting one. Where does Breath of the Wild rank among the other Zelda games? I'm excluding myself from this because I've literally only played 2 Zelda games in my entire life, so I wouldn't know. So I'm taking myself out of this one. So what do you guys say? Brett, I'm going to you since you're the Zelda man.
It's hard. It's hard to order them, actually. I'd say it's just about tied with Ocarina of Time. which is just about tied to Link to the Past. So it depends on which day you ask me, but normally I'll rank Link to the Past as my favorite Zelda game of all time. And then it gets hard. Like, I think I enjoy this game more than Ocarina of Time, but Ocarina of Time happened, games were a lot more constrained then, so it's not fair to directly compare them. So I'd probably say it's my second or third favorite of all time.
Yeah. By the way, I think you may be the only person on this podcast who's capable of answering this question.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because think about it.
Maybe if
Carlos was here, maybe, but yep. Okay, I guess that's it. Then you're the only one, because I can't answer this. The other guys don't have Zelda, so
yeah, I've only played, the first one, the Super Nintendo one. I've played at least one per generation, with the exception of the Wii U. The final one.
Skyward Sword.
Yeah, I haven't played Skyward Sword, but I played the first one, the Twilight Princess.
Twilight Princess, yeah.
And then, I haven't played Skyward Sword. That's both in the same generation there, right? Oh, no, wait.
Well, the
Skyward Sword
was in the same boat as Breath of the Wild is now. It was that transitional between GameCube and Wii. So it was on both.
Yeah, all right. I guess that's all we could say about that. So let's move on to the next question. I'm cheating a little bit here. I'm throwing this one in here now. Usually we do them in order, but I'm doing this here because I'm forgetting the word for it, but preferential treatment. Christian Rodriguez, who just so happens to be my nephew. What's up, Chris?
What's up?
So he's asking me, what do you think about Street Fighter for the Switch? I can't answer that because I have it. By the way, he just reminded me I was supposed to do a review for the Coalition. Totally forgot. I'll do that soon. Anyway, I think the game is good. It's easily my favorite game on fucking Switch. But again, it's because I like Street Fighter. I think it works really well, especially with the Pro Controller. But it surprisingly works well with the shitty ass Joy-Cons. However, I am a little disappointed because I saw Digital Foundry did a fucking comparison right to the old version of the game, which is from 2008. And it's weird. There's less animations in the background. I had an inkling that was going on, but I wasn't 100% sure. But like, for example, in Kent stage, the boat's supposed to go up and down, right? It doesn't on Switch. And there's a couple other character animations that are missing. I'm like, that's kind of weird. So you can't match a game from 2008 that wasn't that graphically intensive to begin with. So that's kind of disappointing, but the actual fighting itself is really good, very solid. I think they rebalanced the game to make it easier, because even if you were to play that game back in 2008, like on normal, it's tough, but this one.
Did you say the moves are easier to pull?
What happened?
Did you say it like the combo moves, or like it's easier to throw a Hadouken or something like that?
Oh yeah, you could like assign it to one button now and stuff. There's also like a stupid gimmick mode in there where you could it's in first person and you get to throw Hadoukens with the fucking Switch. That's in there. There's a gallery, as you would expect. They remix the music, which I think is fine. But yeah, I was very weirded out by the fact that, and again, I just learned this 2 days ago. I'm like, the fucking animation, there's less animations. That's weird, But the biggest complaint I would
there's less animations.
Yeah, it has less animations. It's weird,
So what, they just cut for it's jerky now? I'm sorry, I'm not trying to interrupt your tirade here. I'm so confused.
Didn't you just hear what I said 2 minutes ago? I gave you an example, but I'll say it again. Basically, in the background, for example, Ken's boat, right? In Ken's stage, the boat would go up and down, right? Now it just stays perfectly still. There's a bunch of other character animations that, the characters are just still, they're supposed to move and there's supposed to be more characters, and they cut them out of this one. Very weird,
Yep, that must have been when I was switching my headphones. My bad.
Yeah, but
might have. The thing is, how much
granted,
RAM?
This doesn't affect the actual gameplay. Just getting that out there. But
how much RAM does the Switch have? Does it have somewhere close to what the PS3 and Xbox 360 had?
That's a good question. I honestly don't know.
Street Fighter ran on the Super Nintendo.
This is the updated version.
This is an updated version, and these all the graphics are
1080p,
they're 1080p sprites, so they're larger than normal sprites.
Wow.
So which means that they take up more RAM space. So it might be a RAM issue.
Maybe it's a good thing I didn't do the review yet, because now that I know that the backgrounds are missing animations, because in the game you could actually go back to the old graphics. I'm gonna go back to those old graphics to see if those backgrounds are animated the way they're supposed to be. That's a
Mhm.
good test. But
Because
yeah,
I
it's
would-
not
yeah.
because the Super Nintendo one didn't animate, did it? It was just the
No.
arcade
No,
version.
it was a no. The Super Nintendo moved. The Genesis one didn't move.
The
Yeah.
Genesis one didn't
But this one should have. And but I need to say this right because a lot of people complain about this, and I think it's a valid complaint. Right? Basically, this game costs you $40 on Switch. Right? You could buy basically the same game on Xbox or PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3 right now for $15 or less.
Wait, physical or digital?
It's all digital. Yeah,
There
it's
is
all
no
digital. Yeah.
Okay, okay, but I'm God, I feel like I'm just jumping to Nintendo's fucking.
You're a
promise you
Nintendo
I'm
fanboy now, man.
no,
Embrace it.
so we talk about the discrepancy between physical copies and digital copies, right? So let me play devil's advocate and ask.
Before you go on, Brett, just remember it's also $40 digital on the store.
I know,
Keep that in
and
mind.
well, I know that, and I actually would have guessed that because pricing parity between physical and digital games has often kind of been the bane of our existence.
Yeah.
And one of the ways we get around this is some titles are released digital only, and those digital only titles don't have to deal with pricing parity, and so we generally see them come in for $20, $15 a pop. So here's my question: does this cost more on the Switch simply because they released a physical copy?
I think it costs more on Switch because it's on a fucking cartridge. That seems to be the problem here. Like, there's a lot of games that cost more on Switch than they do on PlayStation 4 and Xbox.
But I would have said that too. But let me ask you: if Sony had released a physical copy of this game, would it not have to take up space on retail shelves? And then all the big box retailers say they don't want to give retail space to anything less than $30. So they absolutely wouldn't let it on Walmart shelves for less than $30. So either A, they wouldn't bother printing them, or they would jack up the price to at least
no, I see what you're saying,
right?
but I don't think they would jack them up to more than 30. Because there have been cases like that, where they release a physical version, it might be a little more, but generally, it's not going to be $40.
Okay, here's a perfect example. I can Mortal Kombat right now. I was looking up to pick up a copy of Mortal Kombat XL because my buddy's been playing it, right? It is between $12 and $15 at my local Walmart. It is $40 on PlayStation Network.
When they had a sale, I got it for I think it was $20. They had a sale and it was for $20.
Yeah.
But I remember, and that was with all the DLC. Yeah, Jason, Alien, and all that.
Yeah. No, you can get it for $20 now, but it's still $40 on PlayStation Network. Like, so I'm not sure that this is an issue of brand as much as it is the bullshit that comes with, having to have a physical copy along with a digital copy. So my question would be, so if Sony or Microsoft did this and they released a Blu-ray based game, I understand cartridges, I guess, cost more to make, but
Yeah, they do.
like, do you think we would see it for $30? Because I don't think we'd see it for less than $40. Because I don't see anything. Mortal Kombat is a pretty good example. The second it drops under $40, it gets moved to the bargain bin, and then when they're sold, they don't order anymore.
Yeah.
They only carry shelf space for things about $40 and up, unless it's on a cardboard end cap.
Yeah, I would say they probably release it. If it was on disc, they probably release it for about $30. We've seen that before. There's no reason why this game should cost $40. There's no justification for it.
No, I don't think that there is. I'm just trying to figure out if this has to do with a physical release. Like, if Nintendo didn't sell the cartridge and they weren't doing price parity, would they still charge $40 for it? Yeah, probably. Because that's kind of the company that Nintendo is. I don't know if. I'm trying to think back of every time I've shopped. And Chris, if you could jump in here with your anecdotal foot shopping experience, I'd appreciate it. But I don't see many games below $40 in the glass case. Like, almost never.
No. Even like the 3DS games, even older, like, because I had never played Pokemon X and Y, but in the retail stores they haven't dropped in price. It's still $40 for each one of them. Unless it's a garbage game, like Prey.
I will say Nintendo's really bad at dropping their games down to the $20 mark. That's where PlayStation and Microsoft really kick it. Like, when their game hits like gold status, they're like, let's get this out to fucking everybody. It's a platinum game. It sold over this many copies. It's $20 for everybody. Nintendo, they do not do that shit. Like, a 3-year-old game still like, we brought it down from 60 to 40, and that's all you're gonna get. You're like, God damn it.
They do like these one-day sales. especially on 3DS for a lot of those games, like Link to the Past and a few other ones. They're like for 24 hours if you jump on now. I'm like, oh, that's how they get you.
That's
Yeah,
great for your savings habits. Well, I was going to buy dinner, but never mind, I guess.
All right, let's move on here, man. Hash slinging slasher. His first question is, have you guys ever built a PC? Was it fun? If you haven't built one yourself, would you ever like to? I like how he snuck all those questions into one.
I have a question for him.
Yeah.
Beef hash, potato hash, or marijuana hash?
By the way, he said, "Hey, can you guys guess what my name is a reference to?" And I'm like, I have no fucking idea. And he's like, I doubt you would have hash slinging slasher. And he goes, I doubt you would have seen that movie. So there's a clue, I guess.
He's got to be a short order cook. Short order cook, murderer at night.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, Brett, since you're talking, I know you've built PCs before.
I love hate building PCs. Like, it's rule number one of PC is don't get mad at the PC build. And I don't think I've ever been through a build where I don't violate rule number one. That being said, it's a special experience when you get your PC up and running. And the best way I can frame it is I name all of my PCs. Like they all, upon first startup, they receive a christening and a name. My PC is named Sheila. My PC before her was named Bessie. Rachel's PC was named Ophelia. The PC I built for my buddy Morgan, her name is Maggie. So you get this kind of weird pride and this sort of connection to your PC when you know what everything is doing and where everything is going. It's kind of the difference between somebody driving a stock car and then a mechanic who loves their car and knows where every nut and bolt goes and how it should sound and how it should run. And when I've built my own PCs, yeah, you can turn it on and you immediately, if something's not running right or a wire isn't bundled correctly, like you hear it. So it's kind of the difference between driving a stick and driving a manual. You're more in tune with the PC you build yourself. It's going to have a lot of hiccups and a lot of crap that comes with it, but the satisfaction alone, I think, is worth it. Not to mention the fact that you're building towards exactly your needs. Yeah, so Chris, at the end of the day, I've had fun.
Yeah, Chris, I'm going to you, man, because I know you built PCs.
Oh yeah, I built quite a few. I built one for Manny. I built one for my friend Mike. I built a couple of my own. Is it fun? It's very satisfying to do it. It's like you accomplish something great. Like you built your own Frankenstein, right?
You created life.
And it's kind of a joy because it's like you go to the supermarket and you get your own vegetables and you look for the fresh ones and stuff. Well, think of that with like a computer. You get to go look at what are the best boards and the best RAM, how do you clock it and all that stuff. You get to decide all that stuff. It's not some scrub company like Dell or whatever giving you like the cheapest crap and trying to parade it as an actual machine like Alienware. It's not Alienware is Dell, so it's garbage. But you get to choose all that stuff from your case and lights, and if you want to laser etch it and all this stuff, you get to customize your PC, and it's in an affordable range. Like people do that with their cars, but that's like an astronomical order of magnitude more expensive than this. But you get to build this thing and customize it. You get to change it how you want, and it serves you right. So that's a great feeling when you get that going.
Also, can I throw in? I think when you start to research building your own PC, and then you start to there's this weird thing that happens. Like you start to research your parts and everything like that, and then a little light bulb goes off over your head. Then you look at any pre-built PC on the market, you go, they are fucking me. Like you don't realize oh, this PC is $1,200. It's a great PC until you look at it and you're like, does this thing only have a 550 watt power supply? Like, how the fuck am I supposed to grow off of this? You notice all the corners that pre-builds cut. When you do, like as Chris said, go to pick out, it's like picking out a meal. Like normally you buy a box and like, sure, it may have great steak in it, but then they skimped on the potatoes. They're crappy potatoes. When you build your own PC, you realize you don't have to cut any of those corners, and you realize how honestly hard it is to get a PC that doesn't skip corners without paying an astronomical markup. I mean, it is just insane. Like, just somebody putting together a PC apparently doubles its value because you sink so much money into just the assembly of it, and you almost always pay in some sort of part that's not going to cut the bill or down the road. You know, you're like, oh, this is a great PC, but eventually I'm going to need to replace the motherboard, or eventually I'm going to need to replace the power supply, or eventually I'm going to need to get another video card or something like that. Like, you don't really realize how fucked you are until you just do it yourself.
I used to care. I mean, I've been building PCs since early 90s. And it was fun when I was younger, you know, running around and getting parts and actually having to deal with a solder iron and go through all that. And then after a while, it just got, I don't know what it was. It just, I just lost the thrill of it. I mean, the last thing I did was on the PC that I have now, that I Frankensteined in. It has an i7, and I put my 960 and some memory and stuff. But besides that, it's like I lost that thrill, and then I just started focusing more on consoles. Like I'll every once in a while I'll do it, but I just don't have the thrill like I used to. It used to be fun, get all the parts, you know, go on CDW, find parts there, or when Newegg was still a front, when they actually had stores, and walk into a Newegg. You know, but
Adam,
I don't know.
let me ask you, do you think that the reward for PC gaming is less than it used to be?
I guess, yeah, because I mean now it's simpler. Now it's like you just get the video card and you pop it in, you know, into your express slot, and you're good to go. You know, back in the day, I mean, there was other things that played a major part in it, but even then, it's just, I don't know. I did it more, not even for gaming. I think I did it more just for the thrill. I mean, there was a market. You could make money doing it. I mean, PCs were fairly new. People were like, oh, damn, I want a PC. I don't have one. You can get one of those. And, you know, now no one's buying PCs. Now people are buying tablets and shit. You know, unless you want to do gaming, you really don't need a PC. You know, the industry's changed. You know, so I guess maybe that's another part of it, because it felt special. You know, when I was doing it, it was special. Not many people can do it. You know how to configure a router and a hub? What the fuck? You're from the future. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I remember Sharky's Gaming Shop. There was this place in Bay Ridge, and they were like, damn, we want to put some gaming in here. He's like, I can set that up. What the fuck? How do you know this? You know what I mean? They were going nuts, you know, and now it's like everybody can do it. You know, it's not special anymore.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Yeah, Manny, have you ever built a PC?
No, I've only done small things like sticking in RAM and putting in things. Not really anything too extensive. The only time that I actually did want to build a PC, I went to the expert, which was Chris, and essentially Chris built me what he wanted to build himself years ago. So,
would you ever like to build one yourself?
No, not really that. I mean, I'm okay with, getting something off the market. I mean, most of the time I usually buy, like, I'm running an HP right now, and the model that I got it's a pretty decent model. It's good for doing all the things that I needed to do, and that's really all I need. If it can run Photoshop, without being slow, and I can upgrade some key components of it, then I'm good. I don't need to worry about. I don't want to worry about having to figure out if a motherboard works with a graphics card or whatever. So I don't. If I'm going to do that again, I probably would go to Chris for any suggestions.
Yeah, I remember jumpers. That was a pain in the ass.
Or you to add
secondary drives and third. It was just such a pain in the ass. You have to put them sideways, horizontal, vertical. It's like this whole little. You had to look at the chart. What a pain in the ass that was.
I remember the one of the things that, like, when Adam was still, like, putting his computers together. I remember when we installed that the tape drive inside of your.
I had a Ditto tape drive.
Yeah,
the Ditto drive, the iOmegas, when that was a thing to back up, and I was backing up a Bigfoot drive, which was like the biggest hard drive you can get at the time. It was 1.6 gig. I was thrilled.
Did you have a zip drive when it came out?
I did have a zip drive, iOmega zip drive too, and I swore, I was like, "This is gonna replace the 3x5. This is the future." No.
Hey, Adam, did you live in Bay Ridge? Kristen wants to know.
I used to, yeah. I lived down in Bay Ridge.
Nice.
Well, I lived
down in Chipstead Bay.
Yeah, you lived in there, but you would go to Bay Ridge.
But he knew about it. Well, yeah, there was also a girl that I was with. She was over there too, so that's why I sort of counted.
So you practically lived there.
Yeah.
Yeah. As for me, I'll just give you a quick little rundown of my history of PCs. So I bought my first PC. I thought it was a Dell, by the way. Had that for a bunch of years, and then my boy, as we call him, Evil Chris, he was like, "Yo, man, you gotta get into building your PCs. I'll do it for you, right?" So every year he would build me a PC. The reason every year is because every year the fucking things would crank out, like they would just get fucked up. So I'm like, you know what? Building your own PCs is stupid because these things don't fucking last. I'm gonna just buy one off the store again. That lasted me for a good while. And then, you know, when I started making money being a gaming journalist, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna build a PC. So I went to the main man himself, Torrance Davis, right? He gave me a rundown. I went over to Micro Center, after Brett was praising all the high hell, and they had them build a PC. This thing fucking kicks ass. But as for me building one, no, I'm good. Let the professionals handle it. I don't know anything about that shit. I was trying to change my graphics card, right? It took me 3 hours to change the graphics card. I'm looking at tutorials and shit. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing here. I'll let the professionals handle it. I'm willing to say I'm already paying like $2,000 for this shit. An extra $100 won't matter for assembly, you know?
Tony, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I just want to use this point to remind everybody that there is a beautiful middle ground. If you do not feel comfortable building your own PC, do what Tony did. Go to Micro Center, do a little bit of research, find out the parts that you are looking for, the parts that are going to work better together. These people are also trained. They'll tell you what kind of power supply you're going to need to run all the equipment in it, and then have them assemble it. You still get all of the savings for all of the parts. You pay a small assembly fee, which honestly isn't that much. Yeah,
it wasn't that bad. It was like $100. I'm like, shit, compared to what I paid, that's nothing.
Exactly, and that is worlds apart from like what Dell does, where they throw $500 worth of crap parts in a case, and then charge you another $400 for putting it together.
And then not to mention that their version of Windows has a bunch of shit that runs in the background.
I was gonna say that this was okay, because usually when you get a new PC, right, there's a bunch of the shovelware shit in there, right? This was the first time I opened up the PC, went to see the programs. I'm like, wow, I can identify every single one of these programs. Nothing's a mystery to me. I know exactly what this shit does. It's great. So yeah, Brett said it right there. If you don't want to like actually build your own PC, have somebody build it for you. Just go in there to Micro Center with your specs and stuff, or you can even ask them. Like, you tell them what you want, they'll build it for you. It's fucking great, you know. But yeah, definitely you want to build your own PC some way or another. You don't really want to buy them off stores. There's always some bullshit with them, you know. Like, it's very limited, especially if you're more specialized, like we are on this show and stuff. But yeah, that's the way to go, man. Definitely.
What was I doing to your PC like a while ago? I did something to your old PC, or was it to the new one? It was something
to the new one. We were doing some. Because we couldn't. It was to the old one. We found I didn't have an HDMI, right, or some shit like that. So we had to find an AV or whatever. It was some crazy.
Yeah, no, there was something really recent with something having to do with something we put in there. I don't remember what it was.
I think it was the monitor, maybe. It was.
It was something having to do with the way you take out your hard drive or something like that. I can't remember what we did. I had photos of it. And I remember talking about it with Torrance.
Yeah, but
Also, while I'm on the note, anybody who is building their PC, please don't make the same mistake I did this time. Like, you're going to have to, at this point in the game, Windows has locked out Windows 7. It is incredibly hard to build a PC with Windows 7 at this point. Just getting all your drivers to match up. Most of the new parts don't recognize Windows 7 until you've installed some kind of bridge driver, or a driver that bridges something between the two of them. We had an infinite amount of problems that mostly came from the fact that we didn't just go ahead and bite the bullet for Windows 10. So I'm not advocating Windows 10, bold, underline, but if you are building a PC, you probably want to start with Windows 10 and then work backwards and reinstall a Windows 7 once you've made sure that everything is good. Breadboard that shit with Windows 10, not 7, because you're going to run into problems these days.
All right, good stuff.
For the one guy out there currently building a PC.
Wait, you said there was a guy that was from Bay Ridge who was in there? So he knows Sharkies.
Kristen just wanted to know if you were if you lived there.
That means she remembers Sharkies when that was there.
She might.
By the way, Hash Slinging Slasher, he says his reference is to SpongeBob. I've never seen a single episode of that shit, so I've
only seen one episode of SpongeBob, and it always comes on for some reason whenever I ever see the show.
With the same episode?
Yes, it's the same one. It's always the one where he meets the squirrel girl. That's the one I always keep catching for some weird reason.
Huh. I feel that way about Gumball. I secretly think Gumball is haunting me. Because every time I fall asleep with Cartoon Network on, I wake up and fucking Gumball's on.
I never heard of that show either. All right, next question here. All right, other than exclusives, what are the reasons to get a console instead of a PC? He goes, I don't want to hear anything about price.
Cheaters.
He goes, here's your console. Basically, he sent us like a list of like you could build your own PC for console price or whatever. But yeah, okay. I guess the question, the answer would be like convenience, right? Like maybe you can't have your PC next to your TV, so console's right there. You can play it on your TV and shit. Manny, let's go to you because you're a big proponent on this. Why a console over PC?
I just don't like to deal with all the stuff all the baggage that comes with PC.
Yeah, simplicity.
I like the simplicity of a console. You stick you stick the disc into your console and it works usually.
Yeah.
It's sad that we have to add that now.
Yeah,
usually. But I like the simplicity of a console, just having to go in and it's the game playing device. I mean, the computer, at least the PC for me is just like, I've had situations where I wanted to play a game and then I had to adjust all this other stuff and figure out what else was working and what wasn't working, and I don't want to figure out any of that sort of stuff. I just want to play the game. So
also, you want to make sure the game works, right? Like I've had games where they've completely stopped working on, like Civ 5. I want to say Rachel and I we randomly one day couldn't play multiplayer, and we never got to play multiplayer again. Of course, that's more of a thorn in my paw, but it's one of those things like perfectly good game. We were both running off of one copy. We finally bit the bullet, bought a second copy on Steam, and the game never fucking worked again because they patched it and broke it.
I had that with DuckTales. DuckTales on PC, I made it to the final boss, and it kept crashing. And then I looked in the forums and said it's a known issue with NVIDIA cards. And the devs no longer exist like on the project, so there's no support for it. Basically, you just have a broken game. And everyone was hitting Steam up trying to get a refund, but it was past, of course, the 2-hour play time in 14 days. And I'm like, yeah, but you can't finish the game. It's like, what, I'm supposed to go get a Radeon card because of this shit? I was like, no, forget it.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, because, PC versions of games have to be optimized for a bunch of different systems, right? Whereas console versions only have to be optimized for that specific version. So there's less problems. I mean, you've seen it, even like games like Prey and shit come out fucked up. Nier Automata come out fucked up on PC. They need to be patched, yet they work on console, no problem. So yeah, there's definitely less of a hassle and stuff. And like May said, it's just easier. Like I know PC games look and whatever on fucking console on PC, but at the end of the day, I'm like, I just want to play on my fucking console, man. And there's trophies on top of that.
There's a thing, trophies and achievements. The thing is, I want that sort of simplicity. I mean, granted, if you're out there and you want to deal with the whole rigmarole of maybe potentially, getting something to work, there is definitely, I can understand having to, getting something out of that, but I don't really want to deal with that. I need to add in a personal thing here. I don't know if I said this on air, but I have told you guys, right? So when I got who was the EA contacted me, like, hey, do you want to review Titanfall 2? I'm like, great. They sent me the code. I played the game. It was fine, right? Then about a month later, I can't play the game anymore. It's just weirdly locked out, So because of that, when EA was like, hey, you want to review Mass Effect? I'm like, yeah. What do you want it from? Like PS4. Because I wasn't going to take that chance. Same thing with Prey. But that's was like, what do you want this? I'm like, PS4. Because now I'm like, fuck, if I get a review copy, will it just stop working? So I'm not going to deal with that shit. Hey, it's kind of fucked up. What happened?
Oh, I want to address your achievement thing. Steam does have a form of achievement.
And they suck. They fucking suck.
Some people, okay.
You can fuck over those. You can fuck over your achievements too. Like if you hack into your game, you can fuck over your achievements.
They're the least satisfying achievements ever. Like they don't even make the noise when
they push your levels by buying those cards. You can just go in auction house and buy them.
I know. I'm
going to rely on anybody's. You can't rely on most people on there.
That's a whole different point, Manny, and I'm about to get to that in 1 second. But the thing I did want to say to Tony is some people like the achievement system on Steam quite a bit because you get tradable cards that you can.
Yeah, that's what Torrance is always telling me. He's like, you could trade cards, you can make money and shit. Yeah, that's cool, but yeah.
you get a tangible reward. Remember when Microsoft first announced like the whole Microsoft points, and the idea was you accrue enough Microsoft points for being badass at video games that it gives you actual credit towards new games that you can buy. So the more you game and the better you game, the more access to games that you have.
Adam still gets stuff from Microsoft.
Yeah, I still get that. They still send me stuff. They'll be like, "Oh, here's $10, and use it toward whatever you want." I get those, and I get the ones for PlayStation. See, they give them. They give them.
Okay, so and that's what I'm saying. Like, so that's not necessarily a bad deal. Now, the problem my big beef, and I'm really glad Manny brought this up. The biggest problem with one of the biggest of many problems with PC gaming, in my opinion, is the fact that it is completely and totally unsecured, which does not level the playing field at all. You have rampant cheating. You have rampant hacking. You can almost never play a co-op or competitive game without somebody having broken the rules. It is, for all intents and purposes, on most online games, rendered unplayable. And this goes all the way down to, the achievement system is rendered pretty much fucking moot because people can just drill into the programming and say and cheat their way to these things. And that takes away a lot of the enjoyment. And this is especially important with a lot of the games that are only available on PC. We can all play your latest whatever. I'm probably going to give an example of a game that's never come to PC, but I don't know, Dad of War. Most people can play most AAA games on PC, but then you have your special games, your games like DayZ, your survival games, your games like Ark or Rust, games that are always on, Life is Feudal. Anything that doesn't have server-side communication like your typical MMO does, which adds to latency and lag issues, generally can be manipulated and the game can be ruined. And by the fact that, like, for instance, Life is Feudal, Ark, DayZ, all these games take place on a server that is always online, you don't have a choice to really play these games in isolate, or at the very least, they're not designed to be played in isolate. And so therefore, when people cheat, it does in fact ruin the game experience for everybody. I will go back into my weird quasi-racist rant about the Chinese invading the Ark servers. It was not only an inconvenience, it was a known plague through the entirety of the community because there's a culture clash. There's the idea that exists in Chinese gaming that any advantage is a clever advantage and to be applauded. I'm not going to say who's right and who's wrong, but they lead to vastly different points of view when playing a game. And one of those accommodates and even accepts and puts emphasis on the idea of cheating. So when you have entire groups of everybody basically but the Chinese, and then the Chinese would come in and roll in a 40-person or a 60-person server with 40 people. Everybody has aimbots, and they destroy the server. You literally saw on a scale that I've never seen before, somebody ruining hundreds of people's good time. Like that's the equivalent of going into like a model train store where people have spent hundreds of hours building all these intricate model trains, or these fucking battle RC cars, and just hitting everything with a sledgehammer. Like, yeah, technically you did what the game wanted, but you've ruined not only everybody's time commitment, but their fun factor as well. And you've really upset a lot of people. That kind of thing does not exist in fucking console gaming because you can't.
Yo, Brett. Hold up. There's only one thing you forgot.
What's that?
God mode. You can't use God mode on the PlayStation.
Okay, and this is one thing I'm sure hip hop is probably not going to go online, but if he fucking uses God mode and goes online with Dark Souls, like he and I are gonna have words. I'll pull him back onto the show. We'll have words.
He did that though with Dark Souls 3. He did that
online.
No, not online. Like actually,
okay, as long as he stays in his own fucking world, I don't give a shit what he does in his game.
He doesn't play online anyway. Anyway, let's move on because we're taking a lot of time with these, but they're good questions. All right, next up here, Mr. Black Metal Gamer. All right, he goes, okay, this is a fun one, actually. Instead of one gotta go, one gotta come back. Okay, we got Clover Studios, Treasure, or Sunsoft. What games would you like to see them do? AAA games or like, indie retro style games? Brett, I'm looking at you, man. I know you want that Treasure coming back.
I'm getting a drink, so I'm not in front of my PC right now. What did these companies?
Gunstar Heroes, motherfucker.
Yes. Okay. Sold. Done.
Oh, here's a fun thing to know about the Gunstar Heroes, former Konami guys.
Of course.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Former Konami guys, and and we kind of have Clover Studios back because they are Platinum Games.
Yeah.
So what was the last one?
Sunsoft.
Sunsoft. I think Sunsoft is gone.
I think but if they can't, like, so which one of these do you want to come back?
I would say Sunsoft because because they're totally gone.
Yeah. By the way, Treasure. This is some of the games they made. Gunstar Heroes, Dynamite Heady, Alien Soldier, Guardian Heroes, Radiant Silver Gun, Ikaruga. They got a lot of good shit, man. Let me see Sunsoft. What games did they have? But yeah, Clover is essentially still around. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, they're platinum. Right?
I would, for me, it would be Sunsoft because they've been gone a long time.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with
Sunsoft. Did awesome Nintendo Batman games.
Yes, the NES Batman game. There's a Super Nintendo one that was pretty much the same.
That's
All the
right,
others looked way better.
Oh,
that was a Konami one.
They did Revenge of the Joker. Revenge of the Joker, Return of the Joker, Blaster Master.
Oh shit, Blaster Master.
Yeah, they made the original game.
Yeah, bring them back because they haven't been around. They're flashback.
They are.
Bring back Sunsoft, man. Bring back Sunsoft.
They are owned by another studio, which I can't remember the name of. I think I can't remember if it's Konami or somebody else that owns them now.
Yeah, so bring them back. I think we're all pretty unanimous on that one. All right, and the next question here. All right, what are some old games you would have remade, and what new features would you like in your game choices? We probably got asked this a while ago, but we could do it again. Bring back Gunstar Heroes.
What new things would you put into it? Maybe be a 3D 2E game like the way.
Hey Manny, how you doing, man? You're pretty close up there.
Sorry about that. I'm fixing something on my monitor.
Updated graphics, man. Sprites and shit, like nice big sprites. That'd be nice.
Bonus levels? Can they give it the Sonic Mania treatment?
Yeah, do it like that. That'd be great. Bonus levels, all that shit.
Dude, I think Sonic Mania is, and I realize that this big words before it's even come out. Like, I think Sonic Mania should set the bar most likely for the way that they should handle retro games. Like the fact that you can, like, as an avid Sonic player, I was the first time I watched it, I was like, I don't remember those levels, but they sure as shit seem like Sonic levels. Like maybe I just never got, like, the fact that I actually questioned myself on these new levels until I found out that they were in fact new levels, like, shows a great attention to detail that, yeah, like we could absolutely bring back a lot of these games. I mean, Street Fighter is kind of another great example. Like, you don't need to fuck with the formula, just update a little bit and put it back out. Don't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah. To be fair though, Sonic Mania has a mix of new levels and old ones. And the old ones are like weird. Like you're playing, it's like, oh, this thriller. It's like, wait a minute, hold on, something's off here. Because you've played those games so many times, when something's off.
Wait, the old levels seem weird.
Yeah, because they've extended the old levels. They added more shit into the old levels. So you're playing
I thought they were just their own stages.
No. I mean, they are like you have Green Hill Zone, but it's like
it starts off like the old Green Hill Zone,
and then it changes into something else. Yeah, but then they have completely brand new levels in there too, so it's a mix.
Oh, I was hoping it was just the old zones. Like instead of 3 green stage zones, you'd have 5, and 2 of them would be new.
It's not like that. The old ones are remixed, and then they have brand new ones.
I guess that's okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a bunch of games you can bring back. You can bring back Castlevania.
Castlevania again.
Yeah.
Are they coming out with a Netflix series on Castlevania?
Yes,
I'm not sure if that's the right direction.
Hey, Brett, I know what game you want. You want them to make an actual remaster of Final Fantasy VII, not what they're doing now.
I've just given up. Honestly, I've given up. I hate to say it, but Square, I think you and I may be through. And I know everybody's excited about the episodic shit. Like, look, you don't take the most beloved, one of the most beloved games.
Everybody excited about the episodic shit? I'm not.
I'm kind of. I don't know how to break it up.
I'm not excited, but I'm looking forward to it. Because I'm not like that married to the original. I could play Final Fantasy VII right now if I wanted to. But since it is episodic, I at least hope they're gonna split them up like the original discs were split up. At least do that if you're gonna split them up. Don't split them up.
You know they're not going to.
I know they're not going. I know they're not going to. But that's what my hope would be, because they would be like synergistic with the original ones. You know, like, oh shit, it ends here. That's a good ending off point. But I doubt they're gonna do that.
Look, I'm convinced that they're motivated by all the wrong things on this. Like this is one of the most beloved video games of all time. It is solid. It is not broken. You do not need to mess with the formula. Basically, it needs the same treatment that Disney's new Beauty and the Beast had. And I'll be honest, I still prefer the old one. That's right. I took my sister to see it. Shut the fuck up.
My daughter's watched it twice.
Like, I prefer the old one, like, because I like the old hand-drawn animation and everything like that, but it was a very well-done remake. Almost not quite shot for shot. They added a couple of things, but it felt very much like it had the heart of the original one. And that's the kind of thing I want to see with video games, but they're not fucking doing it, man. Like, and I don't know how, like, I understand that you should be able to reinvent video games. But there should be a few that if you're going to remake, you don't fuck with them. And that should include the top 5 fucking video games of all goddamn time. And it just about anybody's metric, Final Fantasy VII is going to land somewhere on that list. So it just seems like an incredibly stupid thing to do. Like, you have the password to the money printing machine. Just turn it on. It's not that hard. You see how Final Fantasy 15 looked? Make Final Fantasy VII look like that. Done. Even then, you'd see people like selling the game on nostalgia. A whole new generation. Your kids playing Final Fantasy VII the way that you did, right? Like, and I understand, like, oh, it's kind of the same thing, but it's not the same thing. It's not like you can sit down and be like, oh man, this is Dad's favorite game from back in the day, and they can have somewhat of a similar experience. No, it's a whole different thing. It's going to be episodic. It's probably not going to be turn-based. They
flat out said it's not going to be turn-based. It's going to be more like Final Fantasy 15.
I know, and I'm trying not to say that that's set in stone, but if it
they
is,
did say it. They flat out said it.
It's my dreams, Tony, my dreams.
I'm just telling you what they told you, man.
Like, and this is why I say that I'm done. Like, you don't Guardians of the Galaxy this shit. Like, that was an obscure thing that worked because they could reinvent it. You are changing everything about this game, and I am honestly no longer interested. Now, what I would love to see, and I've been telling Tony about this, is a new Jet Grind radio. I am positively foaming at the mouth for this. And I don't know why either. It's just in the last few weeks, I've gotten more and more excited about the idea of a new Jet Grind radio. Fucking remake the first one, put it on the Switch for all I care, bundle both of them together. For God's sakes, make a third one if you can get the original composer back. Otherwise,
I remember when they brought it back for the Vita. No, it was good though.
It was not a good port. It really wasn't.
By the way, I need to quickly call bullshit on Square Enix, because they said we can't make Final Fantasy VII turn-based because we don't think people will be receptive to that. That's pretty interesting, because Persona 5 is doing very well, and that's as turn-based as you could get. So I kind of call bullshit on that, you know. As a matter of fact, I know Persona 5 is not going to sell nearly as much as Final Fantasy 15, but I see a lot more excitement about that game than with Final Fantasy 15. With Final Fantasy 15, you know, I liked it. It was my game of the year. Where more people say it's a Final Fantasy, I got to go buy it. With Persona, it's like, yes, you know, there's like more exuberance for it, you know, and that's a turn-based game. So I don't know what the fuck Square Enix is talking about.
Persona to its discredit has not been very clear with its naming. People don't realize it's such a storied franchise as it is. You hear Final Fantasy, like, damn, Final Fantasy has been around forever, and they're coming out with a new one. Like, Persona doesn't really do that because it abandoned its original title.
How so?
Isn't it Shin Megami Tensei?
No, Shin Megami Tensei is still around. Remember, Persona is an offshoot of the Shin Megami Tensei series.
But everything. Okay, but Final Fantasy puts Final Fantasy on everything, even remotely related.
Yeah, I know. I see what you're getting, but just get it right. Shin Megami.
No. I know. They're related, is what I'm saying. They're kind of they branched out of the same place, and so you putting the Shin Megami Tensei name on it, Shin Megami Tensei Persona 5, blah blah blah.
They did get rid of that, because originally they were called Shin Megami Tensei Persona, and then around I'm guessing 3. Correct me if I'm wrong. They dropped it altogether. It's like Persona 3. There you go.
They did, and it was very confusing. Like, as somebody who worked at a video game store when that happened, I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, I can't. There's Shin Megami Tensei, and then Shin Megami Tensei Persona, and then there's Persona, and people are like, how are they related or connected? I was like, I don't know. I haven't played them. I don't know if like they're related, if you could just pick one up and jump into it. And I realize that's probably the reason they dropped the Shin Megami Tensei is so that it could make it more accessible. But their marketing, and this is weird to say, their marketing and naming strategy has not been as clear as Final Fantasy. Now, in case you didn't realize the irony in that, I'm going to say it again. Their
With
marketing
Final
and
Fantasy,
naming strategy.
Yeah, but the thing is, Persona is definitely getting up there now. Persona 5 is pretty popular, so I think
they kind of dropped Shin Megami Tensei like by the third game.
Yeah, they did.
They did,
and that was on the PlayStation 1 or 2. Yeah.
But anyway,
like
my original point is I see a lot of people excited for this turn-based game, whereas Square Enix is like, oh, people don't like turn-based games anymore.
Dude,
so
Persona 6 is going to kill it.
It's going to be insane.
Persona 5 has made it a household name. It's brought it to everybody's attention. Final Fantasy already had that.
Yep.
So I think that's really important to realize when you're looking at like game sales and everything like that. Like the game sales aren't necessarily a metric on the two games. I haven't even played Persona. I can pretty much tell you that I think it's probably better than Final Fantasy. Like if I had to put the two games side by side, everything about Persona looks head and shoulders above Final Fantasy. The story looks better. The in-between mechanics look more immersive. The idea of having the intentionally mundane in order to create more artificial excitement, which is a minorly complicated idea that one of the reasons I love Shenmue. Like, yes, I've heard so many people say, I'm in love with this game. It is a simulator of the life of a Japanese boy. And so many people don't realize that they want that kind of quiet, slogging, mundane experience that helps emphasize the quick, exciting moments. And that is a beautiful thing because people are remarking about a system that they didn't even know they wanted. And this is something that I went through years ago with DayZ being a walking simulator. You need those moments. Shenmue was another perfect example. Driving the forklift made everything else just kind of a little bit better. This is an idea that's been brought forward more, but I really see it in a game like Persona 5. So yeah, I think the next Persona game, everybody's going to know about it, and everybody's going to be like, man, I remember that last one hearing it. They'll already have that seed sown, and if people listen to the show know I'm a big advocate of the idea of building a fan base, of building loyalty and things like that, and how your current game is really more the sales of your current game is really more of a reflection of the reception of your last game than the merit of the current game itself. The new BioShock wouldn't sell because of whatever it is. It would sell because of how well Infinite did and how well the original BioShocks did. That kind of idea. Mass Effect Andromeda, the same thing. If it weren't a new IP, if it weren't the idea of more Mass Effect, then people wouldn't be as interested in it. People really enjoy the Mass Effect series, and so they're like, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and buy Andromeda. But if Andromeda were a huge letdown, you would probably not see them blindly pick up the next Mass Effect, and that's how video game sales work. So just because Persona wasn't, a huge financial hit, it is still a critical hit, and that is super, super important, I think. And yes, I absolutely agree. Like, the critical reception is more important in this instance than the financial reception. And the critical reception is that people love this turn-based game. So yeah, I have to double down and call extra bullshit on that same thing. Because
and just for the sake of argument, just remember we're comparing the financials of this game and Final Fantasy. It's actually the best-selling Persona game of all time right now. So it's both critical a success and a financial success too. So yeah, Brett, I'm with you. Persona 6, this shit's gonna blow the fuck up because it's already gonna be in the zeitgeist. People already know what's going on. It's gonna be nuts, man. But again, I could gush about Persona right now, but here's the thing: Final Fantasy took 10 years to make, right? And the game, again, I like the game, but you could tell it's like, oh fuck yeah, like. A lot of shit happened behind the scenes. Well, Persona, I think it's been in production for like 5 or 6 years, and it's like, oh, they took a long time because they put a bunch of cool shit into it.
5 years, there it is, that magic development number again. I'm going to every time. But dude, think about how much bigger a budget Persona 6 is going to have now.
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
like it's going to be unhindered by having to be slimmed down. It's going to be a fully fledged, ready for North American market AAA fucking game.
Yeah. Oh man, I can't wait. Anyway, let's move on here. My man G Megaforce 123. All right. Okay. By the way, Black Metal. We kind of already answered the remake shit, so we don't need to go over that again. Anyway, G Mega Force 123. He goes, "Are Wii and Wii U emulators the reason the Nintendo Switch went with expensive cartridges?" He goes, "I was thinking about it, and maybe Nintendo didn't like that you could play superior versions of their games on PC using an emulator. To me, it doesn't make sense since Nintendo is still getting paid for a copy of the game, but Nintendo has always been overprotective about their IPs. I was wondering what you guys thought. It's definitely going to be more difficult to play these games on PC now that they are cartridge based. The main drawback with cartridges is the manufacturing costs associated with them. Games on Switch will probably never cost less than $40 unless they're on clearance." It's a good question. But I should say though, you can play the Breath of the Wild and Mario Kart on PC right now, but those are Wii U emulated games, not Switch emulated games.
Can I start this conversation by asking a question of, did anybody else ever have problems with the PSP and their little mini disc skipping?
The UMDs? No, not really.
No.
Because there was a couple times on car rides where my game would bonk out or freeze up or shut down. And I had to believe that it was because of the disc reader in it or something like that. And so, I guess my question is, was disc-based gaming an option for a portable system?
I don't know. I never had that issue, and I did take the PSP out a lot. Actually, never had that problem.
Yeah, we were literally playing Peace Walker on that.
Yeah, but what do you guys think? Yeah, exactly. But do you guys think they went with the cartridge to as a form of piracy prevention?
I think they went with it for cost reasons.
Always cool.
It's they're already manufacturing like 3DS and all that stuff. I know they made a deal with a Chinese manufacturer for memory. I forgot the name of it, but it's all about cost and volume, how they do this. So overall, not having moving parts in the system makes it cheaper and more reliable and all that stuff. So overall, it all made sense from a business perspective. Are they worried about piracy? Sure, but that doesn't stop DS and 3DS games from getting dumped on PC. People figure that stuff out. Eventually they'll crack it. This ain't the Saturn.
If someone made it, someone can unmake it.
Yes. Yeah, if there's a will, there's a way, man.
I have a theory.
What's up?
I think about 1994, Nintendo was approached by a blind oracle who told them that their ultimate demise would be at the hands of a disc. And since then, they have just decided to steer completely clear of discs because cartridges are the only safe bet.
That's funny. All right. I don't really have anything to add to that, to be honest.
Nintendo likes cartridges. They've always liked cartridges.
But again, it's like, okay, it makes sense why they would go with cartridges to prevent piracy. But like Manny said, if there's a will, there's a way. So
I mean, it really doesn't, like, if it's being, somebody will find a way to pirate these games. It just really doesn't.
Oh, it's not that hard. I mean, all you need is a reader.
Yeah,
I think the biggest thing, and what Chris said, it's because it doesn't have any moving parts. Because this thing also needs to exist as a handheld mode, you're going to have the potential issue of streaming something off your disc and having the disc skip, and all of that, all the moving parts that can eventually go wrong. They obviously made the best choice, where you just go through. We use flash-based memory cartridges.
Yeah.
Also, the idea of a cartridge of kind of a memory stick is not completely unheard of. I'm not saying it's the exact same thing, but micro SD cards or SD cards are kind of roughly the same thing. Okay, if Nintendo wanted to do something other than cartridge based, like let's play this out as a thought experiment, they would have to do something most likely disc based, which would be very close to what the PSP did. That might be infringing on copyright things, and if not, then you have to look at how much data you could put on a disc. Well, not a whole lot unless it's a Blu-ray. Well, now we're inventing some sort of mini Blu-ray built into a housing, and suddenly the idea of this being cheaper than a cartridge-based system doesn't necessarily hold as much water. If they had to make some kind of small enclosed cushioned Blu-ray disc in a cartridge itself, combine that with the fact that they would have to have moving parts inside the system to be able to read the thing, might bulk up the system, cause more production costs, things like that. So like, yeah, cartridges are expensive, but they might not be more expensive than, you know, a custom tailored alternative, and that would really be Nintendo's only other option, right?
I guess.
I mean, what else could Nintendo do to put their media on this? Like, it would have to be a mini disc, and it would have to be a Blu-ray mini disc, right?
Yeah, and they probably don't.
Or they could go 100% digital.
They could do that too.
Yeah, they could, but I think a lot of people. Yeah, that's an option. And honestly, I think Nintendo is doing a lot of that by they're being very conservative with their pre-orders. I'm not sure if anybody else has had trouble getting games. I personally haven't. I got my Disgaea the day it got released, but I've been seeing a lot of pre-orders selling out on Amazon, and I can't help but think that it's that they're not printing that many of these things because they're and I hear a lot of people just going digital. Most people I talk to who are playing Disgaea, 2/3 of them got it digital because they don't want to wait, or they won't be able to find it, or they don't trust Amazon to be able to get it in time because Amazon, you know, does too many pre-orders and they don't have enough stock to back it up. So I think Nintendo is really really pushing digital for Switch, but there's still you still got to have the physical copies, otherwise people like me are going to complain.
Yeah. All right. Next question here: are we as gamers spoiled? I asked because I recently started playing Mass Effect Andromeda, and despite all the hate, the game is very enjoyable. I feel like when I hear someone complain about a game, they're complaining about what they thought it was going to be. Can't we just enjoy some of these games, or are we just spoiled or entitled? You know, it's a good question to ask.
I think it's more like we've come to expect a certain quality. You know, and so when we've seen that they can hit that quality on previous versions, and then a new one comes out and it's subpar, then it's like, what the fuck? You know, and that's it. I mean, if this is how Mass Effect was introduced, if Andromeda was the first one, we would have no complaints because we have nothing else to go off of it. We're like, well, this is, I guess, their art design and this is their style. So yeah, it would be better if they did this, but hey, you know, it is what it is. But since we know that they can do better facial animations and create a better story, and we've seen it in previous versions, then yeah, this is why we're bitter.
I also add, I think a lot of the kickback on Mass Effect wasn't even necessarily about the game. It was about all the bullshit virtue signaling and blanket racism that was coming out of a lot of the development team. And on that note, I would say that no, I don't think we have. And I was thinking about this the other day. Gamers are an incredibly vocal lot, and that's because a lot of us are older, and a lot of us have been told, you know, since the beginning, you know, because they're stupid, video games are stupid, why don't you go outside? Like, I have had nothing, you know, even not a gamer game, fucking
go
gamers
outside,
are
man.
dead.
Go play with the kids.
Yeah, or fucking gamers are dead, blah, 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 all this shit. Like, gamers do not really tolerate being spoken down to very well. And that's mostly because we have a history of being spoken down to. So in terms of at least my personal beef, which is with a lot of the development cycle and the people that they hired to make this game and the things that they allowed them to get away with, no, I don't think that's entitlement. I don't think that that's being spoiled. I think that that is integrity. I think that I refuse to let somebody talk shit to me, to my face or to a crowd or whatever, and then support that person. So it depends on where you come at it from. And Mass Effect is a highly controversial game because, yeah, it had some in-game things, but a lot of its drama came from its developers. So maybe that's not the best example, but at least in that case, I don't necessarily think it was an all gameplay thing.
Yeah, there was a lot of shit surrounding it. I know there's some people that are trying to downplay that. It's like, no, that had a lot to do with it too, man. You can't dismiss all that shit that went around the game, you know. But in general,
I don't know. I mean, I think here's the thing about Mass Effect, like the new Mass Effect. A lot of the issues that I've seen in you know, that people have been showing are kind of issues from the original two, the first three Mass Effect games. How many times have you seen fucking Shepard's head twirl around, or like friggin', you know, Liara's hand going through, like all kinds of really fucked up looking shit? Yeah. Is that the only difference now is that the stage is bigger? You know, there's more expectations behind it. But back then, like, you know, everybody's like, okay, you know, there's a little glitch here or there, but this is a really fun game.
Yeah, so it could be a case of like, you guys still haven't fixed this shit.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
that's what I see it. That's like, okay, you guys have still haven't fixed this shit. Those Max Effect games are fucking glitchy as hell.
Yeah, but just going on, you know, the a wider thing here, not just one game. I think I hate to say this, but I think to some extent, yeah, the gamers are kind of entitled. Like, it seems that we talked about this on Throwdown too. You guys want like everything for as minimal as possible, for as little money as possible. It's like, it doesn't work like that, guys. Like the Scorpio guys, for example, right? They expect like a system that, you know, could do everything, you know, a PC could do for like $400. Like, that's insane, you know. And there's even games like that. They expect every game to be 100-hour plus, endless replayability. It's like, it doesn't work like that, guys, you know. And then when they don't get that, they get pissed. As a matter of fact, think about it. This is why now the word linear has become a pejorative, because it's like, why we need more than that. It's like, no, you don't, man.
And then you look at the numbers of how many people have actually finished these games.
Yeah, they don't go through
They
it.
don't finish
They
them.
don't even go through the games. I'm sure as fuck it's people that are saying that are complaining that games aren't 100 million hours long. How are you going to complain about a game being 100 million hours long when you don't even finish the game or even get close to completing it?
Yeah, we talk about that all the time. These guys are complaining like, oh, the game is short. The game is short. It's like, then you look at their trophies. They haven't even finished the game. It's like, what are you complaining about? You don't beat any games.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
there's entitlement on that end, you know. I'll say that, you know. But then again, we've also got it pretty lucky. Think about it. Games still cost $60. Like, they've cost $60 forever. You would think they would
not
cost
really.
more now, you know.
They were 50 before.
Yeah, but you see my point though. It's like, so we're good on that end. I think like games, like if you want what was going on, it probably should have been more by now. So I think we're good there. But I don't know. But my thing with the whole entitlement thing is I think it mainly comes from people who want games to be 1 million hours long, yet these are the same people who never finish games to begin with. So why are you complaining? You know, and then the publishers want to hit all these bullet points like, we gotta have multiplayer, we gotta have this, we gotta have that, and then these people aren't even playing the whole game. So it's like, well, why do you want all this extra shit in the game if you're not even gonna like go beyond 5 hours? You know, it makes no fucking sense. We got to get these bloated ass games, you know.
Yeah, and then that just goes back to why, you know, we had like a lot of games where Respawn take out the campaign, and they were like, hey, we just went based off of the numbers. People just aren't playing campaigns. They're doing all this multiplayer. We gave them what they wanted, and then people still bitched. You know, and like Evolve and stuff. I mean, their whole point of doing that was because they went based off of Left 4 Dead too, and they were like, hey, everybody loves this type of format. They're still playing it on Steam, so we'll just give them a new version of that in a different type of environment. Nope. Difference there was a lot of microtransactions. $15 for a new monster. That's ridiculous.
It's insane.
I think for Left 4 Dead, there is within that multiplayer aspect of that game, there's still a story in it. You could play that game without anybody with you, or you can play with other people with you. See? That's the difference.
Yeah. Chris, what do you say about this, man?
Well, the answer is a bit nuanced. I mean, you know, gamers for the most part some are older, and you know, when you invest so much in gaming, you know, we buy our own systems, and you know, we work, and you're putting money into your entertainment, so you have certain expectations. So in that respect, I could see where some of that comes from, and everybody's preferences are different. Some people are multiplayer first, and for us in here, for the most part, we're single player campaign first.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have a different skew based on how you feel about those type of things. But yeah, there's some that sure they're very entitled. Like when I see complaints where it's like, oh, there are no games out, I'm like, what are you talking about? You know, we get that a lot, especially like this year. This March was crazy, and people are like, oh, I got nothing to play. I'm like, then you need to get out of the bunker you're sitting in and go to the fucking store. But yeah, so there's that. It's a spectrum, but I think somewhat it is true. Like we've gotten over as a community overall, if we were to wait, we have gotten more entitled, but for different reasons.
Yes, yeah. It's not just one thing. It's a very myriad thing. And I'm glad you brought that up, by the way. It's like the same guy's like, oh, man, there's never any games to play. Are you fucking kidding me? There's a million games, man. You just aren't looking, you know?
Well, then you need to ask them, what type of games do you play? Because, I mean, almost every type has a new version. Every genre, shooters, RPGs, you know what I mean? It's like it's all out there. So whatever you're interested in, it's out there. Just like bitching. There's some people that just like to bitch.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. All right, man. Let's move on here. My man, I haven't got questions from this guy in a while, Mr. GZDR Forever All Games. So this is an interesting question too. He goes, if the USA is made up of 65% Christians and its population also makes up 51% of gamers, why don't we see more games dealing with religion? Wouldn't we relate to that more than a military FPS game?
Because they aren't real Christians.
Yeah, a lot of, let's just be honest, right? A lot of Christians, I'm saying that with a quote here, are paid lip service at most. They're not really Christians. Let's just be honest. Like the hardcore guys, there's probably very few of them. You know, maybe they would like a religious game, but the vast majority of consumers don't want to play religious games, man. I'm just being honest. And the thing is, and we know this already, religion is a very touchy subject. The people who are putting these games out, they don't want to alienate fans, you know? So they're like, fuck that shit, non-denominational game, here you go. We're not dealing with this nonsense, you know? So that's the real maybe. It's a financial thing more than anything. Think about it. You don't even see like Bible movies and shit, not really like the way you used to, because people are not into that shit anymore, you know? And gamers, especially like, not really, you know, Christians is, you know, I'm not going to get into that. I'll go off on a whole rant about fake Christians and fake religious people in general. But yeah, there's not, you know, even though the numbers say 65% Christians, they're just saying that. They're not really about it. Let's just be completely honest, man. How many of these guys are like waiting until their wedding day to, you know, have sex and all this other shit? Doubtful, you know?
Well, I mean, there was Dante's Inferno, but I mean, for the most part, religion isn't fun. Religion is religion.
Yeah. Hi to your dog, by the way.
She says hi. But yeah, like just thinking about it, like not even Christianity, just like religion. Like, could you make a game about Buddha? Like, yeah, it'd be super boring, and 80% of it would involve sitting under a tree or walking around. But you could. I guess that's what Myst is. But there's not a whole lot of I guess substance to pull from there. The Dante's Inferno kind of tapped the whole well, so to speak.
Well, I mean, they were only adapted. There's nothing. Dante's Inferno isn't exactly a religious story.
No, but even then, like that's.
I mean, it's a book written by somebody, you know.
Yeah, well, yeah, and it's not canon or whatever, but it's considered to be a highly religious work, and even then, it was considered to be a shock piece at the time. The things it depicted were, you know, it was a, you know, it would be a hard rated R movie if it were a movie back in the day, and even then, like by today's standards, they had to take that whole idea and pump it up to 11 and be like, well, what if he fought his way through the circles of hell? Like, there's there's no source material that's really grabbing enough, unless you wanted to make.
A real Dante's Inferno game would be a walking simulator.
It would.
No, exactly. most religious source material would be walking simulators or doing horrible genocide type things to an entire group of people based upon like ideas that don't really fly anymore. So like, even if you tried really hard to like, okay, let's look at the whole Christian ideology. What stories could we pull from there? Like, well, you could pull like the falling of Lucifer. But who's the good guy in that? God? So what do you play God in a video game? God mode's just always on? Like, that's not going to fucking work. You could do like some kind of holy war type thing, but
you could
then,
do,
that's going to ruffle.
You could do David and Goliath.
Yeah, that'd be a real short game.
It'd be a long game because the Goliath would be about as small as a Colossi from the Colossus.
By the way, Kristen said, she brings up a good point. She goes, religious games don't have a good reputation for quality. Remember the Bible games for the Nintendo? There you go.
Well, yeah, but that's also the same. That's also them illegally creating video games.
The best religion game series was God of War.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
And yeah, it doesn't appeal. It doesn't have, you know, a mass appeal to most gamers or community. For us, especially as a country, we're getting more secular, and another thing, the games don't usually sell well. So most AAA studios are not going to pick up those type of games, and also they again, you want to appeal to a broad audience, so staying out of that stuff is probably wise.
Mhm.
And you know, those games don't sell well. Like look at a guy like Scott Cawthorn. That's all he made was Christian-based games. If you look at
Mhm.
iTunes, you know, the Apple Store, whatever. Look at his games before Five Nights at Freddy's. They're all religious-based games. He jumped off that boat, Five Nights at Freddy's. The guy's a millionaire now.
Exactly.
Yeah. He did games about creepy animatronic.
Animatronics,
Yeah, those games just don't sell, man. All right. Next question here. Okay, this is an interesting one too. If Sony buys the LawBreakers IP, knowing it's causing all this controversy between gamers, would that be anti-consumer? No, man. Listen, like again, a company buying an IP doesn't make it anti-consumer. They're not withholding it. You know, you just have to buy the system. So I don't. Yeah.
Can we just define what anti-consumer is? Because I'll be honest, like part of me is like any company who is in a free market economy trying to make money by definition almost can't be anti-consumer, because that's the thing that they're trying to do. Like nobody's gonna be like, you know what, I hate money. Like maybe in communist Russia, but that's not like the whole idea of the company is an entity that's set up to make money by getting it from consumers. So why would any business be intentionally anti-consumer, or is there a different definition here?
Yeah, no, I need to go back to the other question about entitlement. This is a perfect example. Gamers are acting like they're entitled to these games. They have a right to these games. So the fact that Sony has some games that may be exclusive to their platform is anti-consumer to their eyes because it's not on Xbox. Guys, that's not how anti-consumerism works. Brett just broke down what is actually, you know, just proper business. If you're a business, you're in there to make money, right? So there's nothing that you could do that's anti-consumer. The only thing you could do is anti-consumer is like pull the game off the stores and you'll never see it again. It's stupid, you know?
Well,
That's anti-consumer.
If you're feeling like a company is being anti-you, maybe. Like if you're an Xbox owner, right, and a PlayStation exclusive is coming out that you want to play, you may say to yourself like, well, I feel like this kind of sucks. Like I feel like I'm left out in the cold here. I feel like video gaming as a whole is not necessarily pandering towards me. Like, well, no shit. Sony is trying to pander towards you. They're trying to get you to buy their product. That feeling that you're feeling of being left out, that is specifically engineered. We call that competition. And it used to be really healthy for the industry. And I'm sorry you feel that way. And that's not a great feeling, which is why most of us old schoolers usually owned 3 fucking systems when we were kids.
Yeah, that's just how it is.
Because we wanted all of those games. So yeah, that whole, like, I feel like they're against me. Like what? The company that you haven't given any money to and is trying to entice you to spend money with them? No, they're not against you. They're just not giving you something for free because they want your money.
Yeah, that, you know, I'm glad you said, because again, I always try to go down to the more extreme version of this. I'm like, okay, so they're anti-consumer because they're selling this game on another system. So let's just go all the way down that rabbit hole, right? So aren't they also anti-consumer by charging money for these games? If you're gonna go crazy town, let's fully go in there.
Yeah.
You know, it's so stupid. But
how
again,
dare they deny my entry due to fiscal or financial reasons?
Yeah. Listen, if you want a game for a PlayStation, you don't have a PlayStation, buy a PlayStation. That's how capitalism works. Capitalism is a beautiful thing. Support it. Buy these fucking games, man.
And these are the same people that'll complain about, well, we need competition. We can't have just one major system. I mean, well,
but
then
they
what
don't
do you
want to
want?
buy games on the other system. Yeah, come on, you guys are full of shit, man. I swear. And I'm getting sick of this. Chris, I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm getting really tired of this shit. And it's really started like happening this year when Sony dropped all those exclusives, all these Xbox guys. Oh, they're anti-consumer. They're anti-consumer. They have Spider-Man that's anti-consumer. Are you fucking stupid? Come on, man. That's not anti-consumer at all. But here's the funny thing though. When you go, hey, isn't Gears of War anti-consumer? Isn't Halo anti-consumer? Crickets. They don't say shit. Isn't that fun?
Just like how we're hearing in the background of somebody in here.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know why they're surprised though, because I mean, especially when it comes to Spider-Man, Sony has the movie rights.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's silly. Yeah.
No, you know what?
So Chris first, and then you, Brett.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I was gonna say is like those exclusives, those games, that's what we want to play, right? That's the company's leverage over you to get you to buy into their product and eventually their ecosystem if they have a broader spectrum. Microsoft doesn't just have Xbox, they have an ecosystem. So getting you in to bridge into one of them gets you to bridge into the rest of it. Like you're a PC gamer, then maybe they get you bridge into Xbox or vice versa. And Sony, same thing. Look, Nintendo's exclusives are some of the most sought after ever, right? That are you going to call them anti-consumer for keeping Mario inside the system, not making it? I mean, you could, but that's silly because they have hardware to push. If they were just a software developer, then yeah, they could choose and make deals however they want. But it's those deals, it's those locking down Destiny to Sony, or when Microsoft locks Call of Duty, or all that stuff. It's to get you to buy into that system, right? That's competition. That's how business. That's how it's always worked. Like to call it out now is ridiculous.
Yeah, but again, it's just these guys are just salty. They're salty.
It's always the thing you have to understand is it's always going to be an arms race between any console that exists. So you're constantly going to try new things to try to attract people to your product. If everybody had the same goddamn thing, would it even matter if there were even two consoles?
Oh, no, they have an answer for that. They go, oh, you'll buy a console for features. Yeah, because you buy consoles for Netflix. Console for Get the fuck out of here.
You don't buy a console for fucking features. I'm going to buy it because it has fucking Windows 10 in it. Who gives a shit what it's running on?
Nobody's buying. You buy a console because it has the stuff you want to play. Features don't matter. If that was true, then the Switch wouldn't sell a single unit. It doesn't have half or a third of the features that the other consoles have, and it's selling, right? Why? Because people want to play the games. The games are the most important thing, and we constantly say that. Manny's always saying it. I'm always saying it.
Yeah.
Games, it's not gimmicks, it's not features, right? If you want to watch Netflix, go buy a Roku. It's way cheaper than a console. You know,
but these guys would tell you that shit with a straight face. Oh yeah, then you would buy it for features. Like you're so full of shit right now. You're so full of shit right now.
What features could they offer you that would make you want to buy a console? If the playing ground was totally even, where you had like Master Chief and Halo on PlayStation, and then you had God of War and all the other Sony shit on Xbox. What would be the difference? There wouldn't be any difference. Yeah. In that world, in that dimension, there would be only one console out there. There wouldn't be a PlayStation or an Xbox.
In a world where there was only one.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to take this opportunity to say though that just because of all this being said, there are anti-consumer practices. Evolve comes to mind. Personally, some of the Batman games come to mind. There are times when the industry as a whole decides to try and take a shift to give the product less, but to make more money, and that's kind of human nature. So there are games that intentionally and specifically abuse those. Microtransactions a lot of times can be abused in a very anti-consumer fashion, but that's when it's across the board. Anti-consumerism can't be pasted on a single company, at least not a single platform. There are anti-consumer practices, sure, like if somebody wants to start selling everybody a game where 80% of the content is locked behind paywalls, that's bad for everybody. That may make them more money in the short run, but even for them, it's bad. And that's due to the short-sightedness of shareholders. And we've been over that before. But when you're talking about anti-consumer, it's kind of like the word fascism. Like it's thrown around a lot, but it has a very narrow and specific meaning that doesn't necessarily relate to anything brand related. It has to do with the actions that the industry as a whole takes towards its customer base and how we in turn react towards it. And that's where you do see some of these controversies that pop up. Some of these games were like Evolve, people felt cheated. No Man's Sky, a lot of people felt lied to. And a lot of that has to do with messaging, communication, and honestly, journalistic integrity, which is how we got to the whole fucking Gamergate thing, and where we all stand on that. So yeah, was putting out a bunch of articles that say gamers are dead, was that anti-consumerist? Like, yeah, it absolutely was, which was the whole reason that it fucking blew up into such a big shitstorm. So I'm not going to say that these things don't exist, but I will say they exist much more rarely than most people give them credit for, and they're usually much more nuanced and complicated situations that reach all the way across the board and have very little to do with who is pushing what or what game. Those things almost never ever qualify.
Yeah, it's insane. All right, let's move on here. Mr. Daniel J. He goes, do you believe, this is kind of related, I guess, to what we were talking about before. Do you believe that all the marketing deals that Sony has with third parties will affect the Scorpio? Now, before we answer that question specifically, they're saying that those third-party deals that Sony's securing is anti-consumer too. No, it isn't.
Because Microsoft was doing that shit in the last generation.
They weren't complaining about that last gen, were they? It was perfectly fine. Call of Duty, all the big games had marketing deals with Microsoft. These guys didn't say shit. But now that Sony's getting them, that's it. It's anti-consumer.
I also don't remember a lot of people complaining about those things.
No, they didn't. No one cared.
I just remember us saying how stupid people are when they go to a GameStop after seeing the Call of Duty commercial and saying, "Oh man, I wish it was on PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 3," even though it is.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, these third-party deals are really, really anti-consumer. You do realize you could still buy the game on your system, right? Just saying. But anyway, will the third-party deals hurt Scorpio? I think they will definitely have an impact because think about it. You're going to buy with Sony again, like Manny said, people are stupid. They're going to think Call of Duty is only on PlayStation. They're going to think Battlefield is only on PlayStation. They're going to think Destiny 2 is only on PlayStation. They're going to think Far Cry 5 is only on PlayStation. They're going to think Red Dead Redemption is only on PlayStation. So all this shit is definitely because people are going to be like, what the fuck am I going to buy a potentially $500 Scorpio if there's no games on this thing? Sony has all the games. You got to think about it from a mass consumer standpoint. Now, obviously, the guys who are buying Scorpios, they know better. But then again, the guys who are going to buy Scorpio, who know about Scorpio, do not make up the vast majority of the people out there in total, you know? So yeah, but I think they'll definitely have a dent. Maybe not a huge dent, but it's going to, you know what? It's going to have more dent on Xbox overall than just the Scorpio specifically. Because remember, Microsoft is still putting out the regular Xbox out there, and that's going to be the big seller, not the fucking Scorpio, you know? But yeah.
To be honest, I don't exactly think that those third-party deals are going to hurt that much.
No,
because all it is just little bits of DLC that'll eventually come out onto Xbox.
Yeah, no,
it's like last generation. The things I think that could put like I feel like if anything, if it does it it sometimes it can hurt maybe the sales of an actual game, which I feel is just kind of like what happened with which I kind of feel like what happened with.
They're gonna want to buy a PlayStation because they think they could only play Destiny 2 on it. That's what I'm getting at.
But no, it's just gonna affect just downloadable content. People are still gonna buy those games.
Yeah, no,
and eventually get those things.
Yeah, I'm talking about the mass, casual gamers. That's the word I'm looking for. Casual gamers will be like, fuck, I can't buy. Like, Scorpio sounds cool, but I can't play Destiny 2 on it, even though they could, Remember, we last gen all the time. Man, I wish I could Call of Duty on PlayStation 3. You could.
I think the only time that'll really play factors with Destiny when it comes to that special DLC. It was like, man, I wish I could play that special DLC with my buddies because that's what they're playing, and I'm on this other console. We don't have that.
Call of Duty, I think, is going to be a marketing deal as well. You know how much
you heard about that, right? I think they're going to announce something at E3.
They will. They did it last year at E3. So expect that. So yeah, I think
up there with the new Vita. So.
It's definitely gonna. Maybe it won't hurt Xbox, but it'll definitely give Sony an advantage for sure. All right. Next question here, kind of related. From Mr. Matt Wheaton. He goes, do you guys believe that Sony will get scaled down instead of Microsoft? I think Microsoft owns that name, man.
Yeah, Microsoft essentially they snatched up the name. So
yeah, they got the name, man. So yeah, that's not gonna happen. That's a simple question. They're not gonna get Microsoft owns that IP.
Here's the thing. There is a chance that I feel with the Platinum Games' last, title doing incredibly well, which was Nier Automata or whatever.
Yeah, Automata. Yeah.
I think that we may see portions of Scalebound. Some of the tech and some of the things that they've developed for the game Scalebound might end up in other titles.
Yeah, the rumor, and again, rumor is that Microsoft is going to be making Scalebound with their own internal studios, not with Platinum. And of course, my question would be like, what's the point of that? But hey,
well, no, the point is they own.
Yeah. No, the point is they own the IP.
The point of it is because they fully control of it. They don't have to go and have the deal with a Japanese studio. Whatever happened between Microsoft and Platinum was some serious ass shit.
Well, yeah,
So,
I mean, it could be a fucking bot.
yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Out of spite, who's to say out of spite that the fucking Platinum Games is just not going to release games on there on purpose?
Oh, I didn't think about that.
After how much they got something happened between them.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, as far as Scalebound, that's not coming to Sony. Microsoft owns that shit.
No.
All right.
But who's to say that some other game where you control a monster that has a wisecracking asshole guy, with a sword, isn't going to come out for it?
Yeah, bound scale.
Scaly bind.
Yeah, scaly. Yeah.
Knockoff version.
Monster Rider.
There you go. All right, man. Let's move on, man. Lunar 1745. Very good year. Right.
Is that Lunar? Is that Lunar the game?
I hope so.
Lunar.
So he goes, what do you guys think would be the next? This is a good one too. What do you guys think would be the next trend for gaming? For example, right now we got an influx of open worlds. So my question is, what would be the next trend?
I wish we weren't in the trend of open world, and we need to cool that shit.
You know, it's funny because remember we were in the trend of like first person games for a long time, first person shooting games, right? And we were wondering like, yo, what's gonna be the next thing? And this is what I predicted. It's so funny. I was like, okay, the next trend is gonna be open world online shooters, and that's exactly what we have now.
Yeah.
I don't know if open world is so much a trend as an evolution in games. And I think we're slowly moving towards answering the question of like, well, why can't I do that? And that is slowly becoming less and less of an issue in video games. Before it was like, well, why can't I walk through that field? And it was, well, why can't I climb that mountain? Or why can't I take a second to go off on a break? Like, I think the option to play games the way that you want is becoming more prevalent, and that you see a lot of that in open world games, but even a lot of linear open world games. And of course there are people who abuse this and are like, well, it's just making me eat time riding from point A to point B. But Horizon was a very linear open game. There's no reason for it to go back to the ideas of stages and levels where it artificially just places you at the beginning of this trail when you could just walk up to the trail or walk off it. That's being given options. So I don't see open world necessarily being a trend, but I see them refining how they use it in storytelling. And I think we're kind of going through these cyclical points where they keep touching on the different core pillars of video games and reinforcing them little bit by little bit. Games will go through a cycle about stories and then about interactions and things like that.
To me, the only thing that the open world games tend to at least for me as a person who enjoys like story driven games, they kind of kill the urgency of a moment. It's like, oh no, it's like this is incredible horrible cataclysm happening, but I'm gonna go do a fishing mini game. That's like, okay, so I feel like there's a place for both. I feel also there shouldn't be one or the other. I don't think we should end the idea of having a more what do they call it, a more structured momentum sort of game rather than just having one or the other. I mean, we have games like Uncharted, which are like one of those games where it's like they're open to an extent, allowing you multiple ways to tackle enemies and stuff, but it still has that, that tailored, experience, which I enjoy.
Cinematic kind of thing. And I absolutely agree. I don't think that open world games are going to be every game, but I think that they're going to be the standard. And then you have games that are going to be more like God of War, which are going to try and be more cinematic experiences, something that's more directed. And that I think that should absolutely be there for the same reason that I think turn-based games should absolutely be there. Turn-based games allow you this kind of beautiful anime badass moment that Persona really seems to capture. And that's what That's one of the beauties of turn-based games. Now, does that mean that you need a game to be turn-based? No, Final Fantasy 15 did fine, I guess, not being turn-based. But should there still be those games? Absolutely. Absolutely. I just think they're going to be relegated towards more cinematic type games, more games where somebody takes your hand and says, "Here's the experience that I'm trying to lead you through. Here's the story that I'm trying to tell you." BioShock would absolutely fail as an open world game. I do not think that you're going to get that kind of experience in an open world. I think that for most games, you're going to see more open world as a standard from here on, unless they're driving for that.
But then you have a game like Dead Space, which that has a narrative order, but it's also kind of huge, which is weird.
It's pretty linear, though.
It's linear, but yet open. It's like, in other words, each part of the station is not just like this is the space level, this is the bubble. You have to literally get in an elevator and you go to these different parts of the ship, and you have to memorize the layout of the ship.
Well, that's just kind of a natural evolution of the Metroidvania playstyle, isn't it? Mm-hmm. I mean, to a certain extent, Metroid would, by certain standards, be considered an open world game. But it was very clear, like, you had to go here to get
Zelda.
Yeah, exactly.
Zelda too.
But they were very linear kind of open world. We're like, okay, well, I need to do this to get over here, to do this to get over here, to do this to get over here. There's a very clear path that you follow, and you don't necessarily stray from it because they're building this idea of a story, and those should absolutely always be there. But I don't know, as far as the idea of the trend of open world gaming, like, I think they're more just expanding the scope of games and giving players more freedom. You still have, like, instead of going to a quest taker and selecting a side quest from a list of side quests that then teleports you into an open field where you fight 5 dragons, now you actually just go to the field where you fight 5 dragons. And I think that is the natural evolution, and you'll still be spared that from really narrative driven games. I think narrative driven games, you should have less freedom because you're trusting somebody to deliver you an experience who has more experience in delivering that kind of content. If a director is going to be able to direct your attention much better than you would on your own, which is one of the big hurdles of like VR movies. Like, I would love VR movies, but then the question comes, well, how does somebody narrate an experience when you're literally allowed to look anywhere? So I think you have that kind of thing. But going back to the beginning question, like, I don't necessarily think open world is a fad, but I think it's one of those core things that people are touching on. I think, like,
well, the beginning question was, what do you think is going to be the next gaming trend?
And this is a preamble for it. I think we're going to have a refocus on gameplay. I think we've been focusing on world building. I think we've been focusing on multiplayer. I think we've been focusing on how we interact with systems. But I think the thing that we've kind of lost is the idea of just a game being genuinely fun. And it's about time for me to reference Dark Souls. So it's the reason I keep going back to Dark Souls, because I just like stabbing motherfuckers with a spear in that game. Like, it is a viscerally satisfying thing. It's like pulling the plastic off of new electronics. I enjoy it. And I think games have become so focused on what you can do and all the places that you can go and the big stories that they want to tell, that they've forgotten about that it needs to be fun while you're getting there. Bethesda, I'm looking at you. Like, the Fallout games are fun. I love the VAT system. Elder Scrolls needs a fucking overhaul because your sword and sorcery and your sword and board shit in that game is fucking bullshit. Nobody likes fighting ice trolls for funsies in Skyrim. It's you're looking for loot and getting on to the next place. So I think refocusing on the actual core gameplay and making that satisfying is going to be the next wave of things that you'll see. You'll see games that are genuinely fun that people want to play over and over again, and then people be like, well, what is it about this game? So I would say core mechanics.
Yeah, I think we're gonna see more of these Overwatch type games. You're already seeing it. We got Overwatch, Lawbreakers, fucking all this other shit coming out that what's the genre again? Fucking
MOBA's been around forever though.
Yeah,
it just came to consoles.
But to be fair though, what's Overwatch?
It's a MOBA for a console.
It's Team Fortress, right? But now all this shit is suddenly blowing up. So
you could play Team Fortress on a console, not really.
But my point is, like, all those type of games are now coming to the forefront, even though it's not a exactly new genre. So we're gonna see more of that shit. Now we're seeing everybody and their mothers coming out with an Overwatch, basically. You know, so we're gonna get more of that shit. You know, and I know people say that Overwatch is not a MOBA. I understand.
It is.
It's a fucking MOBA. Come on now.
It is.
So yeah, so I think we're gonna see more and more MOBAs, and I'm only talking about for the next immediate year. I can't really look beyond that, but for the next immediate year, we're definitely gonna see a lot more MOBA type games. You see it all the time. Fucking Paladins. Try something?
Well, I think the overall trend is that games that are friendly to esports and streaming
Yes,
are blowing up. You know,
Mhm.
so MOBAs, games like Heroes of the Storm, Hearthstone, you know, those games that people can watch. So what streams and what's popular on there? So all these MOBAs are basically like Team Fortress, right? So all these games, fighting games, look, came back in a big way.
Yeah, they did.
After Street Fighter 4, everything started blowing up, right? Now we went past Mortal Kombat. We got Injustice now. Like how that is Marvel vs. Capcom. We're getting a fourth one. You know, Guilty Gear. And all these Blaze Blue is still going. We got all these games. So games that are friendly to esports and streaming is what's trending now.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. All right, anybody else want to answer this?
No, I'm good.
All right, so
Yeah,
let's move on. We already spent too much time on this shit anyway. All right, what do you guys think about Mixer? It used to be called Beam. Now it's Mixer. Going back to streaming shit. Here's what I find interesting, because Mixer is a Microsoft streaming thing, right? And Phil Spencer is open to the possibility of having it on PlayStation. Ain't that something, you know? But, you know, I'm going to go off on a mini rant right now. I still, and I've said this on many throws, so I'm going to say it again. I still don't understand the appeal of both streaming a game and watching a stream. Maybe I'm an old man. I don't fucking get it. Like when I'm playing a game, I'm playing it by myself. Nobody's there with me. I'm not trying to, you know, play up to a crowd, right? And then conversely, I'm not trying to watch somebody else play a game. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not like shitting on this. I actually like give these people a lot of respect, because you see people becoming very, very successful streamers and all that. But I don't fucking get it. That's my.
I can explain it to you.
I can't. Whenever I've watched streams, it's usually streams without any sort of commentary, like you know, just to kind of get an idea of how the game is. But I hate it when you have like that personality guy. Yeah, look at me. I'm walking. Oh no, you know, like.
But the thing is, Manny, those are the guys that get the most popular.
Yeah, those are the guys that get the most popular. But I mean, here's the thing. I think it's a generational thing.
I think so.
I think it's a generational thing.
Manny, I think you hit it on the head here, because most of the people, I'm going to say it, most of the people who stream or watch streamers are millennials. I'm not saying that's a pejorative. I'm just being honest here. Old fogies like us, like, oh, fuck that. I'm not doing that shit. Why watch somebody else play a game, you know?
And I mean, it did start a lot of it did start with you know, the Game Grumps and all those other guys that kind of created that sort of format where it's like essentially Mystery Science Theater with people making jokes over gameplay sort of stuff. But I can't watch any of them. I can't watch Game Grumps or any of those other guys.
Get it. So there's the thing like Mixer. I'm like, I wouldn't use it. I don't use Twitch. I have a Twitch account, but I've done it. I was like, I don't get me wrong. I've streamed games and I don't see the appeal of it. It's not enjoyable. I'm like, I'm over here playing to a fucking crowd when I just rather just play the game by myself. You know, I have a Twitch, but I've only used it for artwork streams.
But you guys really don't see the irony here?
No.
Okay.
What we're doing here right now.
Yes, yeah, we are talking about video games.
I'd watch a podcast. I'd listen to a podcast because it's a conversation. Watching a game makes no sense to me.
It's the same idea. Like watching a game with commentary is kind of like listening to a podcast or like one of our spoiler casts. And this is one thing, like I'm not going to try and be a downer about this as much as possible, but I'm spending a lot more time alone. And I'm noticing that things aren't as fun in isolate. Things don't matter as much by yourself. So reaching out and being part of a community, being part of something that to a lot of our listeners, it helps them, and it helps people like me, like, enjoy something more. If you gave me a game that nobody could ever play or ever see and I could never talk about, it could be the best game in the world. It wouldn't matter all that much. Life is better when you have something to share with somebody. It's the reason that comedy movies are more hilarious when you're showing them them to your buddy, even if you've seen them before. It's this idea that you're connecting with people and having this shared experience that helps to validate all of your experience. You're not doing this thing in a vacuum. And the weird thing is, we all naturally get it by talking about video games to each other and like here. And there are many different ways that you can absorb this kind of information. And some of them are the Mystery Science Theater, goofy Let's Plays. But I'll be honest, if I'm going to watch a Let's Play, like one of the things that I look for is where people are talking about it. And I like to see how much fun somebody is having. Because some of my favorite, especially Steam games or online games like Space Engineers and shit, like half the fun is the games, or half of the fun of the game is what you make of it. So especially like the sandbox online games that I like I love to see people running around and dicking around and hitting each other with tree branches before a giant monster bursts out of the bushes and or what have you. Like I like to see how these games are actually being played in real life, because that's usually going to be a snapshot of how it's going to be with me and my friends. It's kind of the same idea of Dungeons and Dragons. Like you think it's going to be a bunch of nerds sitting around in costumes. Really, it's a bunch of kind of drunken, crass adults like making fun of everything. Like D&D is fun because of the bullshittery that goes along with it. So, watching, it's Harmontown for a while did a hilarious D&D games, and it was because of all the jackassery that happened with it. You could try and listen to other video game or tabletop podcasts where they're playing a campaign, and it was always so fucking boring. So I think connection, being part of a community, and seeing that human element are all kind of important to validate and connect your experience to other people's. And it's that you get to write about it, you get to talk about it, you have a whole bunch of people, people are listening, you're not doing this in a vacuum. Even if you're playing a video game in a vacuum, there are people who want to hear about that game after you're done. A lot of people don't necessarily have that. If outside of the show, I don't have a whole lot of that. Like I can't geek out over stuff outside of here the way that I can in here. So like even I've noticed a definite connection to the community that I have to think has to be the driving force behind this whole ideology.
I guess I could understand that. Like if you're just like, I guess, living alone and shit, I guess that's one way of connecting. I guess that's valid. Again, that doesn't work for me. I was like, I got everybody, so I'm good. And again, to me, gaming has always been it's like, okay, you do it in isolation, then you talk to your buddies about it afterwards. It's not really something you mix together, because when you start doing that, then you miss out on the gameplay. It's like trying to watch a movie while you're having a conversation. You're missing most of the movie. You're seeing the movie, you're not really getting what it's about. So that's why I don't like to play games with other people, because it's like you get in there with other people, you're rushing to the fucking, to the ending. You're skipping all the cutscene stuff. You're not really paying attention to what's going on. But I like to talk about that shit afterwards with my friends after I've digested it and stuff. But I guess that's just the new way of doing it. I like Mang said, I really think it's a generational thing. But then again, you could still be an old fogey and be lonely and still want to do that shit to connect to people. So I get it. Again, I'm not shitting on it. I give people, I give the whole movement respect, because it is still a way for gamers to connect. I just don't personally, it's not for me, basically. That's all I'm getting at, I
don't understand where the connection happens exactly, because it's all focused on somebody specifically. Like, who are you connecting with? The guy who's talking on there? Like,
well, this is the way I say it, because Brett likened it to the podcast, even though I think podcasting and streaming are two different things, but it's like, even though we are live, so I guess it's a stream. But anyway, the thing about it, people in the chat right now, we're interacting with them back and forth. They like that. It makes them feel special or whatever. So there's
but I mean, a lot of those guys don't interact with these people. They're not saying that much to these people on there.
Oh, well, they chat.
I'm assuming they do.
Yeah.
I noticed it most in. I think the thing that really drew this idea to me, and maybe Chris will back me up on this, was Dark Souls does a fantastic job of fostering this, and that's one of the main reasons, in my opinion, for the success of the game. And I have to think it's intentional, because it was the idea of sharing stories around a bonfire that kind of sparked the original inspiration for the game. But the idea that, you watch videos and you're like, okay, somebody else is getting their ass handed to them by this Taurus demon too, or getting on a message board and talking with other people about hey, how should I spec with this kind of thing. It makes you feel connected to other people, not directly, but because you're all participating in something that connects you. So even if it's just seeing somebody else having a hard time on the same boss that you're having a hard time on, wiping for the third time and laughing at themselves, like makes you feel better for when you wipe your second or third time, or like maybe you beat it before them and you're like, oh cool, I did better than the streamer I was watching, or it's not every game. Like you definitely don't want to like stream Metal Gear Solid or something like that. Like if you watch a streaming game, it has to be almost no narrative in my personal experience, which is why I like watching. If there's commentary on, I like it to be for like sandbox type games, because there's a lot of
Brett. I need to stop you because I think you hit it on the fucking head, dude. And I'm telling you this for me personally. What kind of games do I like to play? Narrative games, right? I don't want to stream those things. I don't want to be in a party with those things. So I think you hit it on the head, because of the game, it's just like, no narrative at all. Yeah, sure, why not? I'll check out the stream or whatever, or I'll talk over it, because there's no real substance in the actual game. It's just you just shooting shit. So I think you just now I understand it. That's why I don't like streaming, because most of the games I play are narrative games, so you don't want to talk over those.
And for a game like Dark Souls, you can do an alternative one where essentially you have a guy analyzing the lore. I can see a stream of that happening, and I would much rather watch something like that, where obviously what's going on the screen isn't exactly fully important, because the story isn't happening every second. Exactly.
And to be fair, though, I do actually enjoy a streamer who we've had on the show very recently, Hip Hop Gamer. When he played Bloodborne, that was entertaining as shit. I stayed the whole time during that, boy. And then Resident Evil 7. But again, I think I just answered my own question again. That's probably why people like streaming too, because they like these characters, right? They like the personality behind the stream.
Rad Brad. He's funny. Rad Brad.
Wait, who?
Red Bread.
I don't know who that is.
I don't know who that is either.
Chris always talks about him.
I've seen Red Bread. Yeah, he's funny.
Yeah, he's funny, and he freaks out. He's like, oh my god!
Yeah,
he's doing all these crazy voices.
He does stream narrative games too. He streamed Uncharted 4.
Yeah, he's funny.
Yeah, see, I can see watching those after you've already beaten the game too. Like if you've played Uncharted, and that's the thing I usually like to do. Like I'll watch Yahtzee's reviews of a game after I've played the game, because I'll be like laughing like, yep, that happened. So I can see streaming a game afterwards, especially with commentary. My question to you, Tony, would be this: would you watch a stream of just all out Street Fighter, like guys whooping on each other? Like, let's say you got a podcast kind of group of 8 people who got together and they streamed a Street Fighter tournament with commentary, talking shit the entire time. Like just
probably not. Probably not. And it's not really because I think the content is bad. It's just like, it seems, I hate to say it's like that, like it's a waste of time. Like I could be doing something else instead of that. I could be playing my own game instead of that. You know what I mean? But
sometimes it's the Mystery Science Theater commentary that we're like, I wouldn't watch that without commentary, but you put some funny motherfuckers who are talking shit to each other, like, okay, this could be music for
but the very same reason. I could see how it could be appealing though. So I'll give you that. So I guess I could say I understand why people stream. I'm just not into it.
And also, I know a lot of people that watch these streams that have no plans of buying a game. So they'll follow certain guys that they know are good that can complete the game, and then they'll just watch them. Like I knew a guy who did that for Batman. He was like, I had no plans on buying it, so I just watched the guy live stream it.
Yeah, but again, for me, it's like I have so many games in my backlog. I can't be wasting time watching other people play when I got my own shit to play. You know what I mean? But again, that's just me. Moving on here. Who are we up to right now? Oh yeah, Mr. Zalazar Naruto 52. He actually asked us this a while ago, but I think I personally just forgot to, ask it. So I'm going to ask it now. Okay, this is a tricky one too because I haven't kept count. How many video games have you beaten in your entire life? Who knows?
That's all kind of trophies and stuff, so that we can
have absolutely no idea.
I don't know. I used to keep track of them. I used to keep track of them when I was younger. Like I had like this little booklet. I would say which games I've completed, but I don't.
I have no idea. I have no idea.
It's too many. It would sound like a segment of Cosmos with Carl Sagan.
Yeah.
Tony, we just had a great point brought up in the chat.
What's up?
watching streaming of games can be very reminiscent of standing around in the arcade watching other people play. You're learning from them, you're watching them, and you remember how much fun that used to be.
Yeah, hey, that's a good one. Yeah, I
But
like it.
Yeah, but that's for
wasn't-
us. Like
Yeah.
when we remember arcades. What about all the kids watching now? A majority of Twitch audience is
Oh no,
under
I'm saying
20.
it's the same thing. The reason we're like, well, I don't get that is like because we did that. It was just in a different form.
Yeah,
Now
yeah.
it's kind of the same deal. They're watching.
You ran out of quarters, so you just hang out watching other guys play the game.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
man.
I don't have the money to buy this game, so I'm just going to stream it for a while until I do. I could see it being very much the same thing.
Yeah, that's a great. Who said that? That's a great point, man.
That would have been DB a gamer.
Yeah, shout out to DB. We got a question for you too, man. Okay, so yeah, if Salazar, no fucking clue. I don't know. Hundreds of games probably. You know.
Yeah, I mean the trophy system and the achievement system is a good gauge of how many games you've done in the last since the PlayStation 3/Xbox 360 era. But there's a whole list of games.
Yeah, it's like, that's like not even a quarter of what we played in entire lives. You know.
Yes, and I mean, I could say that essentially most of the games that I have on my shelf, I've completed. So
You know what's crazy? I just thought about this. Imagine if you grew up with the PlayStation era, Xbox 360 era, you could actually keep track of every game you've ever beaten.
Yeah, you could.
That's something we don't have. You know, we've been playing games since fucking Nintendo and Atari and shit.
It's part of the reason why I like, like when they make those remasters of PlayStation 2 games, I'm very reluctant to go back and actually play them because I'm like, man, I did this shit 20 years, 20 or 10 years ago.
I already earned my stripes on this one. So
I've done it.
Is it weird that I beat less games now that they're easier?
Yeah, that is weird because you figured you'd be blowing through them now that they're easier.
They're just longer and easier though. Like they're not harder. Like I don't know. Maybe it's one of those like that's the thing that drew me to Dark Souls at the beginning. People were like, this game is hard. You probably won't finish it. I was like, oh fucking yeah, I'll show you. But like I finished the story on Assassin's Creed games and then I am fucking done every time. So I don't know if you could say I quote unquote finished them.
No, I mean, you beat the main campaign.
If you beat the main campaign, yeah.
Yeah.
But what I call the way I and Tony and some of us here beat the games, what I call it is called playing for keeps.
Yeah.
Which is essentially you play until that thing and you've gotten every single aspect of that game.
You squeeze all that juice out of it, man.
All the juice out of it. But for Tony, I noticed you do multiple PlayStations to constantly get everything. For me, it's always one time. One very, very, very long place.
Yeah, because I like to go in there. The first playthrough is always like you're getting the lay of the land, right? The gameplay, the trophies, and all that. Then the second playthrough is like, okay, this is where we're getting down to business now. I know all the shortcuts. I know how to play this game. Let's get this serious. So my second playthrough is typically the one where I really complete. But the first one is like, let me just feel out how this game is, because there's been a bunch of games.
I do both of those.
Yeah. What do you mean?
I burrow through it as hardcore as possible on my first playthrough, and then I put it away, and then I wait for all the DLC to accumulate, and then I do a second playthrough that's basically just streamlined into the DLC content. Like I'll do a good
strategy, yeah.
Main campaign, or if it's a game like Fallout, like I'll do like one faction plus all the side quests, and then the next playthrough I'll just do the other faction plus all the DLC.
Oh, I'm so glad you bring up Fallout because see, with a game like that, it's so long. I don't want to replay it again. So I come up with a strategy before I even touch it. It's like, okay, this is what I'm going to do so I can get 100% of this shit and never play it again. So yeah, if it's a short game, I'm like, yeah, I'll replay it a couple of times, sure.
Ouch.
A big game, I'm like, no, I want to know exactly what points I'm going to hit so I could get 100% and never touch it ever again.
So you don't want to play Dragon's Age again, huh?
Oh no! But I did play it 2 times. Oh my god, that game.
Yes, okay, there's an S on there.
Yeah, because fucking the old Dragon Age games, right? I play them like 3, sometimes 4 times because the games you could beat them in 4 hours, completely beat them, like everything, 100%, 40 hours. Now it's like 100 hours minimum. It's like I ain't got that kind of time. I got other games to play, man. So that's the only thing that's keeping me from getting 100%. Now games are so fucking long. I can't just be sitting on the game for like forever like I used to. I got to move on to other shit. It's crazy. But anyway, yeah, we can't answer the original questions. Impossible to answer that shit. And the last question here, at least gaming related question, is from DB a Gamer. He goes, what do you think about Microsoft getting more Japanese developers and returning to the Tokyo Game Show and with the big fish being Sega? I didn't know about this. So apparently Microsoft, Phil Spencer said that he's over in Japan. He's going to court more Japanese developers. That's great. But again, I'm going to say it. Look what happened the last time you did this. Your fans don't like these games. I actually see this all the time. Like, they shit on Japanese games. So it's a great effort, but the Xbox fans are not going to buy these games. They call, you know what they call them? They call them crappinese games, you know?
Yeah. So I definitely think it's going to be a hard sell. The thing is, it's going to be to the point of trying to get Japanese developers to make games that are uniquely Western sorts of games. Now, the thing is, there's going to be two sides of this, where it's like you have that section of where you have Blue Dragons and you have all these real cool Japanese sorts of games coming out there, but where's the audience?
Yeah. By the way, and I'm glad I did this. I have a couple of tweets here from some of these hardcore Xbox fanatics, right? I'm going to read them all too. Okay. Sony exclusives. Oh, you mean one all right AAA and half a dozen Japanese games no one gives a shit about? And then another guy, Mike Mayoral, Japan is irrelevant now, and thus all these crappy AA Japanese games no longer sell. Another guy goes, it has plenty. Stop it, bruh. Biggest load of shit. Sony just got some and almost bullshit Japanese games. Jamie Moron, as I call him. I just watched 10 seconds of Star Ocean 5 and I'm really feeling motion sick. Another Japanese game to do so. I guess trying more means there's not a bunch of crappy Japanese games on the system that no one ever heard of. So this is the general statement from these hardcore fanatics. They don't want these games, you know. They think.
So what are they?
Hold on. These are Xbox gamers, right?
Yeah, they all have the little M on their name, you know, little Scorpio.
Yeah, because first of all, like PlayStation gamers, we like our Japanese games. We come from a long history of Japanese games, and yeah, I realized you jumped on the bra train like just about the time that kind of went out of style. But yeah, no, there's a lot of people like that care about them. You're talking to a few of them, so you can't say and nobody cares about them. And also, people in glass houses, motherfucker, your system doesn't sell real well outside of North America, and sure as shit doesn't make it into Japan. Nobody gives a fuck about Xbox in Japan, so they could be saying the exact same thing. There might be a podcast right now in which Japanese gamers are talking about how little the Xbox matters. Like, if you want to have a very narrow viewpoint, that's fine, I guess, but you can't say it is then a worldly, open-minded viewpoint. Like, no. You're talking about an entire market that can exist all on its own. If Nintendo went completely out of business in North America, it could still be a very successful company in Japan all by itself. Japan doesn't need us. We help, but they don't need us.
But Brett, people don't want to admit Japanese games aren't as good as they used to be.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest,
after this year, what a stupid statement.
To be honest, like the last few years of stuff that's been coming out of Japan, you know, has been pretty good.
I would say Japan is back. This year has proved it beyond a shadow of a doubt.
There you go. You hit the nail on the head. That mentality that Japanese games suck is a dated mentality. And for those of you who want to actually hear, because this is one benefit to starting to be old as fuck, we've been there. I remember when Japanese games took a dive, and it was about the time of the first Xbox, right? And Japanese developers were like, we really can't keep up with a lot of this direction that these new games are going. And one of the things that they referenced, I want to say, was Fallout 3.
Fallout 3 was Xbox 360 though.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm saying it was right around the cusp time. Like, I think there were still some pretty good Japanese RPGs on the original Xbox. But yeah, there was a point that happened, but that was years ago now. Like, that's probably 6-7 years ago at least. Like, Japanese games have been getting steadily better. They've taken there was a point in which Western games started doing things that Japanese games didn't, and it took them a while to incorporate those lessons into their games and then push forward with new styles of games. So yeah, I'm not going to say there wasn't a point in which Western games weren't better made than Japanese games, but that it's not like that was 6 months ago or a year ago or 3 years ago. That's way dated information, guys.
Yeah, exactly. But again,
I'd say-
just look at this year. All you need is this year, man. And the Switch, we can't discount the Switch. The Switch is doing very well with nothing but Japanese games, right? So come on, man. You got to stop with that old bullshit, you know? You guys are insane. But yeah, and you said it right there, Brett. Like, the Xbox is not an international console. The PlayStation is, you know, because they cater to everybody. Xbox is only for American guys mostly, you know, the bro guys and shit, you know, the meathead dudes. They cater to that audience. So while I do, you know, respect Phil Spencer for trying, it's gonna blow up in his face just like it did the last time.
It's gonna be like the original Xbox. It's gonna be a crazy hard sell. And then the other thing is that, you know, to be honest, the Xbox doesn't have anything. Xbox One doesn't have anything in the Japanese market. Like, they're not even selling that well at all.
They're not. And think about when the 360 tried that shit. They had 3 Japanese games, 2 of which were from like noted developers: Final Fantasy, Hironobu Sakaguchi and shit, Akira Toriyama. They didn't fucking sell, you know?
Dude, I think it's hilarious. Like, it is almost demeaning when you hear the numbers. They're like, you know, like X thousand blah blah blahs, X thousand PlayStations, X thousand 3DSs, and 9 Xboxes. Like, it's at that point, it's like, look, just put in the slaughter rule and don't even put them up on the board, because that's just embarrassing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: there's a possibility that the 9 people that are buying Xbox players could be Americans over there that live over there.
That's a great point. Yeah,
or Westerners that live over there.
So yeah, you guys got to stop with that bullshit, man. Again, I applaud you, Phil Spencer, but it ain't going anywhere, man.
But I mean, here's the thing: like, what does Phil Spencer try to get them to make? Because it's got to be a game that has to appeal, not only appeal to Japanese audiences,
Americans,
which they're trying, but also Americans, and that's a lot. That's a lot to ask.
Westerners, yeah. That's. But
I mean, what are you going to make a first-person shooter with anime girls in it?
But we're Westerners, and we played Final Fantasy and all that stuff, and that's mostly centric on their culture, right? But they don't want Halo, which is centric from our perspective, right?
Yeah,
and Gears of War with like a bunch of meatheads running around shooting things from the center of the earth, like
Gears actually did okay over the first one. I don't know about the other one.
Well, because of the graphics, probably.
Yeah, it was different, but still, like, so Microsoft to do that, like, if I was Phil Spencer, I would get the budget to put a Microsoft studio in Japan and staff it there, do a cultural exploration, and try to get something that you know, can look at both cultures and bring in those elements into some fantasy game. You know, test the waters with that.
Yeah, no, for sure. We'll see. Yeah, but just quickly, I didn't, because apparently this is news to me, by the way. I didn't know Phil Spencer was doing this until I saw this in the chat. So that's interesting. And apparently they're trying to work out something with Sega. Very interesting. Think about it like that. Sega, that's ironic, because remember when Xbox originally came out, had a little Sega games, you know? So there's history between the two. So I could understand why that's happening, if that's happening.
You bring Sega back in the fold, and me and Xbox are going to have a a discussion.
Yeah, well, I mean, Sega hasn't gone anywhere. Let's just be honest.
No. But I'm saying, like, if you took I know that this is fanboy thinking, but like, if you took Microsoft's money and said, we're going to reach into the nether realm and pull out the people who worked on the Dreamcast, we're going to pull out everybody we can, and we're going to try and Frankenstein some sort of as much of the original Sega and Dreamcast team as possible, and we're going to then merge with them like Super Saiyan Fusion style, like then you would have me back into the Xbox fold.
Yeah, by the way, I think go ahead, Danny.
I think if Phil was able to tap some of those franchises that are not some of the old franchises, which both Japanese and the Westerners remember, I think that's a good chance right there. Like, if they were somehow able to lock down a game like Virtua Fighter, or somehow able, like a new Virtua Fighter game, and they were somehow able to lock that one down, or let's say go back and do a new Altered Beast game, or any one of that's the safe, because Sega has millions of franchises. They could probably lock down a couple of them, which would be pretty good.
Make a new Power Stone.
Shadowrun is not a
it's not a Sega game.
No,
Not a
no, no.
Sega
I know. But what I'm saying is like, and maybe this is just my perception, but when the original Xbox came out, it was kind of like the Dreamcast 2.0, right?
Oh yeah,
Like,
definitely.
Yeah, definitely for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
If Microsoft could rekindle that same relationship to the vestiges of whatever is left of Sega, like then you would have and I'm not talking about just IPs. I'm talking about the people who worked on these IPs, the people who helped
Well,
design the
Yeah,
hardware.
well, Yu Suzuki, you know, he's doing. Yeah, that's the little trick.
Yeah, a lot of
yeah.
those guys are gone from Sega. Like the the original creator of Sonic is gone. Yu
That's what I'm
Suzuki
saying.
created
Naka, yeah.
But
Yuji
Microsoft
Naka.
has.
All those original guys are gone.
Some retired. They're not
But
doing
Yeah,
if
so-
we're talking about Microsoft throwing money at a problem to fix it, right?
Here's
Like
my
at
question.
the end of the day,
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but at the end of the day, how much money is Microsoft willing to spend on this venture? Remember, they don't need Xbox to thrive, man. You know, they really don't. It's just a side thing for them.
yeah.
I can't help but feel though like if you get those original creators back and some of those original IPs, you would be essentially bringing both of what Nintendo and Sony bring to the table, which is beloved franchises and quality hardware.
Yeah, no, here's the thing. I'm not disagreeing with you. If they could bring all those guys back, yeah, it'd be fantastic, but I don't think they can, you know. But,
Oh no, this is a fantasy world I'm living in.
In that case, I completely agree with you. But the point I wanted to make before I forget it here, so D Be a Gamer, he goes, I think the purpose of Microsoft doing Japan again is to get more Japanese single player games to players in other countries, like when they did in the Xbox 360 era. But again, look what happened when they did that in the 360 era. None of those games fucking sold. They all flopped to shit. And the point I wanted to make was, how do we know that they're going to port all these Japanese games and we don't have another Scalebound situation? Scalebound, if you really think about it, is kind of like a Sega game, right? Look what happened to that. Never even got off the production line, you know? So again, I'm not trying to be pessimistic about this. I'm not trying to be a downer. I'm just using history and the Xbox fan base as my guide here. I'm like, I don't know, but this is a good, okay, it's a noble thing you're trying to do, but it's not going to go anywhere, man. It's like,
Yeah, like how
I'll stop, right? I was about to say something that's going to get me in trouble.
like how are you gonna like how are you okay if you're gonna have
hold on, man, before I forget it. It's like me being a missionary going to a, you know, me being a Christian missionary going to a country that's not very friendly to Christians. How do you think that's going to end up? That's all I'm saying.
Kill them all like the Crusades, and you force it.
No, it's just me, one only guy, you know, with a book, you know, trying to convert everybody. You know, go ahead, Nate.
It's gonna be whatever it is, whatever is gonna happen. It's gonna be a definite hard sell for both sides. You know, for Xbox fans and for Japanese video game fans. It's like, okay, so we have the PlayStation that has all the RPGs and all the things that we want to play on there. And then we have this thing that's kind of trying to do the same thing, but really not, you know, I don't like American consoles. That's what it is.
I think it'll be a slow thing. Like there's elements to Japanese games which are very good. You know, the flash, the style, the timing, the way that the stories are told, they all have a lot of merit, and these can be broken out as just design elements and kind of westernized and put into Western games. You know, God of War is a great example. Devil May Cry is another great example. They're heavily inspired by, you know, God of War it's less obvious, but Devil May Cry is obviously inspired by anime and theatrics and showmanship and flashiness and over the top. And God of War took a lot of notes from that and kind of westernized it. So I think that with the resurgence of good Japanese games that are coming to the forefront, hopefully we'll see these mechanics kind of brought over, and we'll end up with, you know, games that are appealing to both audiences. But I don't think it's going to be a quick thing. I think it'll be people look at Persona and be like, wow, that game is real flashy and people seem to like that. Like, I wonder if I could put some flashiness into my game. You know, and that's what makes all the best games, in my opinion. And Jet Set Radio, which I've been talking about a lot lately, has incredibly inspired by the idea of anime mixed with westernized graffiti style. It made for a really cool thing. So I think you'll see a lot of in between games, and that's where the end thing will be. Because don't get me wrong, there's a lot of really good things about Western games that need to be brought into Eastern games too. And I think that you're just going to see them breaking apart elements and saying, well, what works, what doesn't, what do people like, what doesn't. So like, I don't think you're going to see a lot more turn-based games, but I think you'd see a lot more style-based or anime-based gameplay coming up. Like the idea of something being slow and heavy that Gears of War really brought to the forefront. Like I think that's going to start going by the wayside for more over-the-top, visceral kind of things.
What was the name of that Japanese game that was a rip-off of Gears of War? You guys know what I'm talking about.
It was by, who is it by? Chris, Namco, right?
Like the big burly.
It was
guy
like
something.
yeah.
You guys
It
know
was
what
like
I'm talking
it was like Gears of War with an anime girl in it.
Yeah,
with the anime
basically.
girl, you throw her around. Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about shit like that with this kind of venture. But I will say this, just to finish it off. Microsoft at Tokyo Game Show, very interesting. I'm really looking forward to seeing that shit now. Like how are they going to kick? Because remember, Tokyo Game Show is not a show for us; it's for them. For the Japanese people. So what is Microsoft going to possibly show to cater to the Japanese crowd? That's very okay. This Tokyo Game Show just got very, very interesting to me. Very cool.
Quantum Theory, by the way, that was the name of it.
Quantum Theory. All right, man. So let us wrap this shit up. By the way, Nels Coney, he had some questions about comic books, but we're running out of time, man. So we'll answer them another time.
Yep.
So thank you for watching and listening. Leave us your questions in the comment section of this episode here on YouTube or on the Coalition. We'll answer them on next week's show. Subscribe to Throwdown on SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Throwdown Show. Links are located in the description below. Once again, I was your host, Tony Polanco. Tonight I was joined by Emilio Lopez.
I'll see you later, guys.
Chris Seeley.
Hey, take care, everyone.
Brett Murdoch.
It's been real, party people.
And Adam Vale.
Ladies, people.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Later.
Deuces.